Good afternoon. This is the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the McAllen Independent School District, which is being held today, Monday, February the 12th, 2024, at 5 p.m. at the Dr. Ricardo Chapa Boardroom of the Administration Building, which is at the McAllen ISD location at 2000 North 23rd Street, McAllen, Texas, 78501. Items listed on this agenda may be taken in order other than shown on this agenda. Unless removed from the consent agenda, items identified within the consent agenda will be acted on at one time. At this meeting, there may be discussion and action by the board on items and subjects listed as follows. We've convened the meeting at 5:05 p.m. We will now have a moment of silence. Thank you. If everybody please stand, we'll now have the pledges of allegiance. We'll have one of our students, as you can see on the screen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
That was good.
She did a very good job. We'll now proceed to item 4 of public comment. Before we do, just a couple of quick housekeeping. We do have a person sitting in the front with our administrative staff, which is Shelley Long of the Kevin O'Halloran Law Firm, who is present here as legal counsel for the Board of Trustees this evening. We also have John Ball, who's legal counsel, who's coming through online Zoom. And our board president is also attending our meeting via online, as you can see her on the screen, and will be participating in this meeting as well as throughout the afternoon. That takes care of any housekeeping unless any board member has a question or needs clarification. Hearing none, we'll now proceed to the public item number 4, and we'll have a short video that will be presented at this time.
The school board encourages public comments at all board meetings. According to Board Policy BED Local, board meetings and public participation and related district administrative procedures and practices. Persons wanting to make a statement to the board are required to register with the superintendent's secretary 1 hour prior to the start of the scheduled meeting. Audience participation at a board meeting is limited to the early stages of a meeting. At all other times during a board meeting, the audience shall not enter into discussion or debate on matters being considered by the board unless requested. Each participant is limited to 2 minutes per meeting to make comments to the board. At regular board meetings, the board shall permit public comments regardless of whether the topic is an item on the agenda posted with notice of the meeting. At all other board meetings, public comments shall be limited to only items on the agenda posted with notice of the meeting. The board shall not deliberate or decide regarding any subject that is not included on the agenda posted with notice of the meeting. If an issue mentioned is on tonight's agenda, the board will defer discussion of the issue until the appropriate time during the meeting. Should the speaker drift from the stated subject or becomes disruptive or abusive, he or she shall be given 1 warning. If a second warning is required, then the speaker may forfeit the remaining time allotment. The board shall not tolerate disruption of the meeting by members of the audience. The board has adopted complaint policies that are designed to secure at the lowest administrative level a prompt and equitable resolution of complaints and concerns. Please refer to the following policies. Student and or parent complaints should refer to policy FNG. Employees refer to policy DGBA, and citizens can refer to policy GF. Copies of district policies are available on the McAllen ISD website at mcallenisd.org.
Reuniones de la Junta Directiva, participación pública. En las reuniones ordinarias de la Junta permitirá comentarios públicos independientemente de si el tema es un tema de la agenda publicada con el aviso de la reunión. En todas las demás reuniones de la Junta, los comentarios públicos se limitarán a los puntos de la agenda publicados con el aviso de la reunión. Las personas que deseen participar durante la parte de la reunión designada para comentarios públicos deberán registrarse con el funcionario que preside o su designado antes del comienzo de la reunión, como se especifica en los procedimientos de la Junta sobre comentarios públicos, e indicarán el punto o tema de la agenda sobre el cual desean dirigir a la Junta. Los comentarios públicos se producirán al comienzo de la reunión, excepto a lo permitido por esta póliza. Los procedimientos de la Junta sobre comentarios públicos. Los comentarios de un individuo a la Junta no excederán los 2 minutos por reunión. Cuando sea necesario para una gestión eficaz de la reunión o para dar cavidad a un gran número de personas que deseen dirigirse a la Junta, el funcionario que preside puede hacer ajustes a los procedimientos de comentarios públicos, incluido ajustar cuando se producirán los comentarios públicos durante la reunión, reordenar los puntos de la agenda, diferir los comentarios públicos sobre temas que no están en la agenda, continuar los temas de la agenda para una reunión posterior, brindar mayores oportunidades para comentarios públicos o establecer un límite de tiempo general para comentarios públicos y ajustar el tiempo asignado a cada orador. Sin embargo, a ninguna persona se le dará menos de 1 minuto para hacer comentarios. Se puede proporcionar información fáctica y específica o una descripción de la póliza existente en respuesta a consultas, pero la Junta no deliberará ni decidirá sobre ningún tema que no esté incluido en la agenda publicado con aviso de la reunión. El funcionario que preside o su designado determinará si una persona que se dirige a la Junta ha intentado resolver un asunto administrativamente a través de los canales de resolución establecidos por la póliza. En caso contrario, se remitirá al individuo a la póliza correspondiente para buscar resolución. Quejas de los empleados, DGBA. Quejas de estudiantes o padres, FNG. Quejas públicas, GF. La Junta no tolerará la interrupción de la reunión por parte de miembros de la audiencia. Si después de al menos una advertencia, funcionario que preside, cualquier individuo que continúe perturbando la reunión con sus palabras o acciones, el funcionario que preside puede solicitar asistencia de los funcionarios encargados de hacer cumplir la ley para sacar a la persona de la reunión.
Thank you. We'll now proceed to 2 speakers this evening. The first speaker is Mr. Lupe Chavez. The topics is 10A3, interlocal with the City of McAllen, 10C2, proposed board policy GKG local, 10D6, inclusive park, and 11E, recommendations by HR. Mr. Chavez, if you would. You have 2 minutes, as you know the clock's ticking, and we'll proceed whenever you start speaking. Thank you.
Thank you, Board President, community members. I'm going to recommend that the minutes state the following, that I appeared here before council to remind the school board and our new superintendent that I see a lot of similarities between Brownsville and here. Brownsville's also in a deficit around 14 million. We just had a workshop here where we're approximately 14 million also. All I saw was a lot of copy and paste of financial data, reports that weren't even necessary, like the birth rate. The birth rate's not going to help you solve these problems. The historical data on employees isn't going to help you solve these problems. Also, we have people from Brownsville that, for example, Ms. Aguilar Crandall, retired elementary librarian, had concerns about the former Brownsville superintendent, and that it was a personality and that was not accessible. I still see differences here where some people get access and other people don't, depending on perhaps maybe your color of skin, because after all, this is McAllen. Also want to remind the public here that, that we're signing agreements with the City of McAllen. Now, these are facts. The City of McAllen, McAllen Municipal Judge Ernesto Aliceda, Municipal Judge Marcus Barrera, former City Commissioner, signed false warrants by McAllen PD. We also know that lawyers can't, these are their professional conduct. The law firm of Demuth Castillo, Ben Castillo, they represent PSG ISD. They conducted election fraud in the 2022 election. It's all there. But our Terry Palacios, our district attorney, doesn't want to file criminal charges because he's been bribed. Former district attorney Ricardo Rodriguez, his nephew, was also bribed by FAR. UTRGV is also involved. You can't be involved in these agreements with them because they're violating the law.
Mr. Chavez, thank you very much. Our second speaker this afternoon is Mrs. Sylvia Tanguma, and her topic is ESSER funding.
Good evening, President Alizada, Dr. Gutierrez, and trustees. I'm going to start off by thanking you for the work and effort you put into our school district, and we know that we all appreciate it. I am here because of the recent ESSER funding talks. Although these monies may have already been allotted or set aside by the previous board, it is of utmost importance that you recall and that the community realize that the ESSER monies were given to school districts to, and I took this from TEA, focus on students impacted most by the pandemic in student groups such as students from low-income families, students with disabilities, students of color, English learners, migratory students, students experiencing homelessness, and children and youth in foster care. And with that, these are some examples of how ESSER 3 funds can be spent on the aforementioned underrepresented student groups. Extended day or extended year activities designed to recover lost instructional time, including costs associated with transportation. Providing language accommodations for English learners to increase their access to content and participation in programs and services. Activities that respond to social and emotional learning needs of students, including professional development and wraparound services. Supporting existing educators and staff in adding bilingual education, special ed, or other specialized certifications by covering the costs associated with earning those certifications. Compensatory services to address lost instructional time, implementing child-find policies and procedures, providing positive behavioral supports and interventions and mental health services. Supporting capacity building activities and improving the delivery of services to improve results for students, increasing specialized support staffing who are specially trained in outreach, transporting students experiencing homelessness or who are in foster care to schools of origin, assisting with rising mental health and behavioral needs. There's more, and these are all examples from TEA. I also want to say that unfortunately, our previous board
I'm sorry, I'm just going. You need to wrap it up real quick.
Really stretched the meaning of the ESSER 3 funding to be able to give ESSER funds to community projects.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This concludes the public comment portion, item number 4 of the public agenda, and thank you for the speakers for joining us this afternoon. We'll now proceed to item number 5, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Gutierrez.
Yes, in the second episode of Super Excellence, our spotlight shines on the child nutrition program, showcasing its pivotal role in fostering the health and well-being of our students. And we have a video that we're showing to the community and to everyone what our child nutrition department is doing behind the scenes to prepare the meals for our students every day. Hello everyone, this is Dr. Rene Gutierrez, Superintendent of the McAllen Independent School District. Today, we are going to be visiting the Child Nutrition Program. The Child Nutrition Program in our school district is a very important department because they serve all the meals for our students in elementary, middle school, and high school. They provide breakfast and lunch, and many times after-school snacks. It plays a very important role in our school district, and with me, I have our Child Nutrition Director, Ms. Sonia Esquivel, who's going to show me around what's going on behind the scenes with our Child Nutrition Program and the meals that they prepare on a daily basis.
This is our central kitchen where we prepare thousands of meals for our students every day. And so as you can see here, this is a little bit of an assembly line where they are preparing for our construction schools to receive their lunches or dinners on a daily basis.
All right. Now, once they prepare these trays, they are taken to the campuses?
Correct. Okay. They're stored in hot trays or hot warmers. Okay. And held and then transported to the schools for service.
Very nice, very nice. It's amazing the number of meals that we prepare.
Absolutely.
15,000 in the morning, 15,000 at noon. So you're looking at a total of about 30,000 meals per day.
Which equals out to about 6.1 million meals in a regular school year, not including our summer program.
Over 6 million meals on a yearly basis when you total everything up on the number of days.
Yes,
that
sir.
the kids come to school. Mr. Esquivel, wow, this is one of my favorite meals when I was in school, pizza. You cannot go wrong when
That's
you
right.
serve pizza. This is the best pizza that you can have in town. And so can you tell me about the nutritional requirements? I know that there's some requirements that we need to follow
Yes,
for
sir.
our students, and as much as we like pizza, it has to have certain ingredients or requirements before we can serve it. So can you
Correct.
tell me more about it?
Yes, sir. So one of the challenges we always have as a department, right, is that we want to ensure that kids are receiving the food that they love to eat, like pizza, right?
Okay.
But also, like you mentioned, that we're complying with USDA nutritional standards, and so everything that we purchase for the child nutrition program falls within that category.
Gracias por lo que hacen y síguenle adelante. Okay?
Gracias.
Muchas gracias. Okay, so this is where is the freezers, and as you can see, it's an industrial type of a freezer where all the food is kept cold, frozen, until it's ready to serve. So tell me more about it.
Sir, it's cold.
It's a little cold, but let's do it.
All right, so this is where we store all of our food. We are able to receive directly from a lot of our manufacturers because we have such a big storage. So on pizza, we just talked about pizza. We're able to order over 600 cases of pizza monthly that come directly from the manufacturer to our central warehouse here.
So this is now the warehouse, and can you tell me more about the warehouse and the items that we keep in here?
Yes, sir. So this is what we consider our dry storage. And so again, we have a big enough storage area that we're able to receive. We probably have anywhere between 12,000, 13,000 cases being held in our whole warehouse. So like I like to say, this kind of acts like, we act like the Sams of our department.
What we have here is the delivery trucks. This is the delivery area, or also the pickup area.
Correct.
Because we're standing right here on a ramp. This is the inside of a truck. Obviously, we have several of these trucks, if you can see around. They pick up the meals and then they deliver to the campuses. So can you tell me a little more about this delivery area and pickup area?
Sure. Our department has 10 delivery trucks where we're able to, support any campus for anything that they might need. So for the most part, we have routes that go out daily to go deliver hot food, go deliver weekly orders, bi-weekly orders to campuses. Like Warehouse was saying, they get orders, they fill them, and then we have schedules for those to go out.
And it is very important to have a meal program for our kids because that's how they're going to learn better in the classroom. And so thank you for being part of the instructional process in the school district as well.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gutierrez. We now go to, this is still your area, so the next report is 5B. Still you.
Yes, thank you. The McAllen Education Foundation provides support to help foster excellence and enhance educational opportunities for students in McAllen ISD. They held their second annual McAllen Education Foundation bowling tournament this past Saturday, very successful. I want to thank everyone that was involved in this bowling tournament for raising funds for our students. We have a short video of that event, as well as we have some members of the McAllen Education Foundation present who will be presenting more on what they're doing this year and how they're working with us and the fundraisers that we are having with them throughout the year. So we're going to take a look at the video, and then we're going to have Ms. Aisha. And Ms. Christine Wallace.
So today we're at the second annual McAllen Education Foundation bowling tournament. We have teams of 5 where we have teachers from all of our schools in the districts that have come to kind of show us their stuff.
I'd like to thank the McAllen Education Foundation, the board, along with all our McAllen ISD family for coming together for this good cause and raising monies for our students. All the proceeds of this tournament will go to help students from the McAllen Independent School District.
We raised upwards of about $150,000 this year, which is kind of a big deal. I didn't think that was going to happen for a bowling tournament, but I'm impressed. I'm from McAllen myself, so I'm very proud. Next year, we're looking to raise upwards of $250,000, which when I heard that, I said, I didn't think that was going to be possible, but it looks like it is. If we did 150 this year, next year, 250. I'm all in. Next year, Gobble San Lucas.
We have
Thank you for
Ms.
putting
Aisha
that
Gonzalez
together.
and Ms. Christine Wallace.
Thank you, thank you. Good evening, Dr. Gutierrez and McAllen ISD Board of Trustees. My name is Aisha Gonzalez, and this is Ms. Christine Wallace. We are here proudly representing the McAllen Education Foundation as not only board members, but as local business owners, and more importantly, as proud MISD parents. We were asked to attend this meeting to provide you with an update on the activities going on within the organization and the efforts we are putting in to fundraise for the foundation, who in turn awards your teachers and students with well-deserved scholarships and grants. Just a quick history about the McAllen Education Foundation. The nonprofit organization was formed in 1996 and has funded over 500 grants worth over $600,000, which has benefited more than 60,000 students. The foundation provides support to help foster excellence and enhance educational opportunities for students in McAllen ISD by funding innovative teaching grants, helping to send students to different international summer educational experiences, and providing student scholarships for your top entrepreneurial student groups. In recent news, the McAllen Education Foundation Board worked tirelessly to organize our second annual bowling tournament that took place this past Sunday. February 10th, this past Saturday, I'm sorry. It's a blur. This weekend was crazy. I'm happy to announce that the event was a complete success. There were 38 teams and 2 fun lanes with our Board of Trustees, with every single school in attendance and participating, sending 5 teachers, staff, administrators to bowl. Everyone had so much fun. There were a lot of laughs. It was just a great time, and it was so great to see all of you there. Ms. Kittleman, we did miss you, but we had you.
She was there.
Yes, we did have, yes, we did. Yes, we did. So McAllen Education Foundation awarded the first place team, which was Cathy Middle School, a $3,000 school grant. The second place team was McAllen High School, and that was a $2,000 school grant. And the third place team was Brown Middle School, and that was a $1,000 school grant. Now, our elementary schools recommended that next year we separate them because that the middle schools and high schools have a lot more teachers to pick from. The elementary does not. So they want 2 different divisions. So we're going to talk about that. The foundation was able to raise a grand total of $151,200 in monetary and non-monetary contributions. The board would like to thank our extremely generous sponsors, which included 5 turkeys, as you saw our turkey sponsors up there, 5 $5,000 sponsors, 18 $2,500 sponsorships, 29 $1,500 sponsorships, and 52 $500 sponsorships. All of you know this very well, but I need to say it on the record. We live in a great city with amazing support from our local businesses. It truly takes a village to make an event like this such a success. And we know that none of this would have been possible without all of our sponsors. I speak from experience when I say that asking businesses to sponsor an event that helps fund all of the activities mentioned earlier is an easy sell. Our business partners proudly sponsor our events because they believe in McAllen ISD, they believe in our teachers, they believe in our staff, but most importantly, they believe in our students. On behalf of the McAllen Education Foundation, we would like to thank you for inviting us to come and update you on our efforts. We look forward to visiting with you monthly to continue providing you with these updates as the year progresses. We hope you have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam President, do you wish to make a comment on behalf of the board?
Thank you so much, Trustee Salvar. I was just thinking, I mean, what everybody in the room is thinking. I mean, this is incredible. Thank you so much. With the teacher grants are so important. We couldn't do it without this incredible foundation. We're so excited, this new kickoff. So thank you so much for everything.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank
All right, thank you. We'll now go to item 6, recognitions. We have none. Number 7, proclamations. We have none. Donations. We have none, aside from what MEF just reported. And then we'll now proceed to the consent agenda.
I would like to.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Chair Saldivar, may I make a motion that we recess the 5 p.m. meeting and reopen the 4 p.m. workshop?
Yes.
Okay, you want to go ahead and make that motion, Madam President? Is that your motion?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Trustee Aliceta and seconded by Trustee Lopez that we recess the 5 o'clock meeting at 5:30 p.m. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to a vote. You have a comment?
I was hoping
Trustee Regalado?
we could take up one issue, but that's fine.
Are you sure?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, proceed to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. We have Trustee Aliceta is voting yea. We have a 7-0 vote to recess the 5 o'clock meeting at 5:30. We are reconvening the 5 p.m. regular board meeting of the Board of Trustees of McAllen Independent School District, which is being held today, Monday, February 12, 2024, which started at 5 p.m. in the Dr. Ricardo Chapa Boardroom, Administration Building, McAllen Independent School District, 2000 North 23rd Street, McAllen, Texas, 78501. Items listed on this agenda have been taken in order other than shown in the agenda. Unless removed from the consent agenda, items identified within the consent agenda will be acted on at one time. We are now reopening this meeting at 5:57. We had been in recess to go back to the 4 o'clock meeting. So we had just finished item number 8 under donations. Do I have a motion, Trustee Regalado?
Yes, I move that we reorganize the agenda to bring up item 10D1.
Okay, I have a motion to bring up 10D1. It's on page 5. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Trustee Rivera. Item 10D1 is report regarding delinquent tax collections for the period of October 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023. It's on page 1016. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it 7-0. We have reorganized the agenda, bringing up 10D1. Dr. Gutierrez. 10D1.
We're going to start with 10D1.
Yes, sir.
Yes, this is the report on the delinquent tax collections for the period of October 1st, 2023 through December 31st of 2023. Is Ms. Kelly Salazar from, yes, she's here, setting up, from Lineberger, Gogan, Blair, and Sampson. They will be presenting on the collections, the delinquent tax collections for October through December. Go ahead, Ms.
Thank you, Dr. Gutierrez,
Salazar.
Thank you.
President Alizada, and members of the board. I'm here to present, as Dr. Gutierrez said, the delinquent tax collection report for October 1st through December 31st, 2023. As always, our delinquent tax collection program on behalf of McAllen ISD focuses on 2 basic premises. The first is to collect from the individual taxpayer first, and secondly, use the tool of litigation as a final option to collect. During this reporting period, we completed 1 demand mailing over 1,400 statements to delinquent taxpayers within McAllen ISD. We made or received 674 phone calls, had 109 payoff requests, and we had 29 folks come into our offices either on the corner of Freddie and North 10th Street, on McCall, or in Mission to discuss and try to work out payment options. Regarding litigation, we have filed 37 lawsuits, disposed of 25, and we have pending litigation as of January 2024 of 344 lawsuits representing over $1.6 million in base, penalty, and interest owed to the district. We regularly conduct tax sales and tax resales on properties with little to no effort to pay. We have not put up for sale a property that is an occupied designated homestead. That's been our policy since COVID as a part of our compassionate care regimen. It's a delicate balance, as I mentioned before, to meet your needs, of course, as a district and show compassion to the taxpayers within the district. We have sold 3 properties representing over $20,000 in base and penalty and interest owed to the district.
Regarding our second quarter collection highlights, you'll see that our collections are up compared to the prior second quarter. $308,000, over $308,000 in base collected, over $135,000 in penalty and interest, for a total collected this reporting period of over $444,000 owed to the district. Looking forward to the next quarter and beyond, we will continue to represent the district in all lawsuits filed on behalf of the district. We'll continue monitoring those accounts in bankruptcy, continue with our mailing program, and place any properties that are necessary to do so up for tax sale and resale. Be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mrs. Salazar. Any questions or comments from the board? Well, thank you for your time and your report.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
it.
Have a
good
great
one.
evening.
It was just a discussion item.
Yeah. We now go to item 9, consent agenda items. There's one listed, 9A. Does anybody wish to pull this, or can we proceed to a vote? Hearing none, no comment, then we'll proceed to a vote on the consent agenda. Do I have a motion? I'm sorry, do I have a motion first?
So moved.
Been moved by trustee Lopez. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Rivera. For the consent agenda, there's no comment on that. It just proceed to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. We have trustee Eliseda signaling yea. We have a 7-0. Motion passes. Consent agenda was approved. Item 10A, instructional items. 10A1, report regarding the district-wide pre-K 4 program. Dr. Gutierrez.
Yes, this is just a report to the board and to everyone on our pre-kinder programs to help students start kindergarten with the skills needed to boost early literacy, academic achievement, and reduce the risk of grade retention. Dr. De Hoyos, Associate Superintendent for Instructional Services, will share a report of the McAllen ISD pre-K program for the 24-25 school year and what the plans are for next year as we open up pre-K 4 for all kids. Go ahead, Dr. De Hoyos.
Thank you, Dr. Gutierrez. Good afternoon, board. I want to start by stating that our McAllen ISD students have the opportunity to participate in a pre-kindergarten 4 program through the Head Start program, the House Bill 3 mandated program, or the Universal program. In the past few years, we have increased the Head Start partnership with 18 classrooms offered during the 22-23 school year to the 22 classrooms currently offered in the 4 campuses listed on the second column here in this slide. And we will expand the partnership to 28 classrooms for the 24-25 school year. On this chart, you can see the number of the pre-K 4 classrooms where they are currently at the ones that we are adding for the 24-25 school year. In total, we're increasing from 63 classrooms to 72 classrooms to include the 7 additional Universal program classrooms and the additional Head Start program classrooms. Now I would like to inform you of the most recent program application numbers. The column in orange notes the application request for the 23-24 school year, and the 24-25 school year requests are noted in green. As of the last board meeting, where the pre-K 4 program was approved, the applications received have increased, and we expect the increase in the months to come.
Is that 142 applications?
Mm-hmm. And then in February, we have up to today 36, and we're barely February 12th. So we know we will be getting more increase throughout the months. But even if we were to just stay at the even number and have 69 for February, 56 for March, and so on, we already can celebrate the increase of 131 application that has come in. So we already see an increase on that enrollment.
Excellent.
So that's all. Thank you for your time, and do you have any questions?
Any questions
We
from the
just
board?
need 400 more to cover Ms. Lorena's deficit.
Oh, we only get half it.
They're super cute too.
Now, that would be a problem to have. We got extra 800.
Then we can have our pre-K academy.
That's it. No questions?
One
All right,
more.
trustee Ariana.
Those people in the community that would like to apply, how do they go about doing that?
They just apply with our, we do have a a registration or enrollment on our website. And then also they could just call our student recruitment office with Ms. Elizabeth Cavazos.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question. Good job.
Very good.
Love this program.
Thank you.
Excellent. We'll now proceed to item 10A2, discussion and possible action on the 2024-2025 school calendar to include the extended year additional days school year. Dr. Gutierrez.
Yes, we bring the results of the selection of the 24-25 school calendar for your approval. Ms. Patricia Peña, our Director for Professional Development and Literacy, has been working diligently along with the staff members and presenting to different committees, different groups, as we were drafting the 3 options of the calendar, because we wanted to include the additional school days in this calendar, so we could embed them in there and allow us to start school a little earlier and stay within our calendar requirements and getting input from everyone. So it was a lengthy process. It was vetted, reviewed by groups, different groups and different committees by the time we finalized the 3 options. And then they voted on this 3 calendars. And Ms. Peña will go over that process as well as the calendar that had the most votes. And we're ready for the board to hopefully approve it tonight so that we can start our planning for next year. And our calendar is one that we need desperately to start the planning process for next year. So, go ahead, Ms. Peña.
Yes. Okay. Alrighty. Good evening, board. Thank you, Dr. Gutierrez. So I'd like to start with the goal of the LEAD Calendar Committee. Like Dr. Gutierrez said, the LEAD Calendar Committee is tasked with creating drafts for the 24-25 school year. We usually develop 3 viable calendar options for our stakeholders to vote on. Our task is also to ensure that all of our calendars meet Texas Education Code and local requirements. And ultimately, we want to create a district calendar that meets the needs of our McAllen ISD students, staff, and community members. So this year, we began our meetings in November, and we met from November to January. Sorry, am I not talking loud enough? Okay, I'll stand here. We met from November to January to develop these 3 drafts. Our 3 drafts were presented to our entire LEAD Calendar Committee on January 24th, 2024. Here, the LEAD Calendar Committee got to look at the 3 drafts. They got to discuss the drafts and ask questions. Those drafts were then presented, moved to go ahead and be published and put out to vote by our community, staff, and parents. The window for voting began January 29th and it closed February 7th. And we had several options for voting, including Google Forms for staff, paper ballots for those that preferred paper ballots, and it was promoted through McAllen ISD website and social media. In creating our calendar, we go through different parameters. We make sure that we follow Texas Education Code. We look at local calendars with STC and UTRGV. We also look at summer sessions to make sure we're ending in time for graduates to enroll for summer school at the university. Another thing that we look very closely at is assessments. We look at TELPUS, we look at STAR, and we look at AP testing to make sure that our calendar ensures our students that are successful. Our days are planned around those very important testing dates. With all of these things in mind, oops, something happened with the presentation. We developed 3 calendar drafts. And right here we see calendar draft A. Calendar draft A has 180 school instructional days for students, 187 teacher days. That's the same for all 3 calendars. We have 2 weather days as mandated by our parameters, 1 in the fall and 1 in the spring. We have 7 total professional learning and teacher work days. We have 5 half-day teacher planning days, and then we have our student holidays. Calendar B looks very similar. A lot of our calendars every year look very similar due to the parameters. Once we establish that student start date and we establish that end date, we have to work within those parameters. What we do see here is again 180 student days, 187 teacher contract days. We have 4.5 professional learning days and 2.5 work days. That was because we split that first day back after the winter break. We have 5 half-day planning days for teachers, and we have student holidays. Draft C, again, still looking very similar with a few changes in where the professional learning day and the work day land. We have the 180 instructional days for students, 187 contract days for teachers, 4.5 professional learning days, 2.5 work days, 5 half-days, and student holidays. We also provided for our community, our stakeholders, our parents, and staff, a comparison chart that shows the difference between the 3 calendar options, Draft A, Draft B, and Draft C. This is something we provide every year. And after the final voting happened, we collected 1,941 votes. These votes were comprised of 1,325 staff votes and 616 parent votes. After breaking down these votes further, we broke it down to 1,325 total staff and employee votes, of which 889 went to calendar A. So overwhelmingly, our staff and employees voted for calendar A. After totaling parent votes, we had 616 parent votes. 415 of those votes went to calendar A as well. Within these votes, there were 83 paper votes collected. The next slide shows a further breakdown of calendar A, B, and C from staff, calendar A, B, C from parents, calendar A, B, C from the paper. We have totals. In yellow, you see the totals for the calendar A, which received the majority of the votes. 1,304 votes were cast for calendar A, and that is the calendar that we are proposing to approve for the McAllen ISD 24-25 academic calendar. The next slide shows that calendar a little bit more in detail, along with a breakdown of the contents of the calendar. So, calendar A is the calendar chosen by our stakeholders.
Thank you, Ms. Pena.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments from the board? Trustee Pena.
Trustee Regalado, do you have something you'd like to cover? The February 10th weather day.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be the day after the Super Bowl?
That was not our intent to have the day after Super Bowl off. The intent is to have a weather day in fall and a weather day in spring. And so typically what we have is February 17th off, which is the week following, but that is the first day of TELPUS testing. So we did have a representative from the bilingual department there, and we're talking about the very important process of setting up our campuses for TELPUS with success. So we didn't want to give a day off on the very first day of TELPUS testing.
When is MLK Day?
MLK Day is
2025.
January 20th.
January 20th. So calendar B and C had the option to put that weather day on January 20th or the professional learning day on January 20th, but those were not voted on. They did not receive the majority of the votes.
What other options do we have to that February 10th? Because it is not acceptable for me to not have MLK Day off. It's a day of service, and I think everybody should have that day to honor MLK as well as to utilize that day for service or some kind of service project.
And we heard that from our community as well. So if you look at the breakdown of calendar B and C, the community had the option to vote for that. It just didn't get the majority of the votes. We had the weather day on one of them on January 20th. Let me see which one it is here.
I think it was
Calendar C. If you look at calendar C, the weather day was January 20th. They just didn't vote for that one. And it was also on calendar B, Professional Learning Day, which would have had teachers be on campus, but not students, that also wasn't voted on. It didn't get the overwhelming majority of the votes, but it was an option on B and C.
I think it should have been an option on all of them. I don't think we should leave MLK Day out.
Well, the reason why it wasn't, again, it was the lead committee's suggestion. They wanted that professional learning day up there bracketed against this on the 7th. So, like, once you move one day, you have to make concessions for other days.
I yield my time.
Trustee Reglado.
Beyond it being, I think that MLK Day and President's Day, for instance, any federal holiday is of much more significance and educational significance as well to our students. Beyond that, I think it makes more sense to recognize the federal holidays because that's when more likely people will be off from work. Although some people probably didn't want to go to work today, Super Bowl is not a federal holiday. And I think it's important for us to acknowledge that it would make more sense reasonably for most employed people in our district to have their children off when the banks and post office are closed as well. And I think that while we had the half day on option B for January 20th, the option C is the only one that accounted for MLK Day to be the weather day. So I think that
So option B was a full day, but professional learning day. It was a full day off for students, not staff.
Not for teachers.
right.
Option C was a full day weather day.
Right. The other thing I wanted to say is that I think there's got to be a way to account for everything. I did also notice that we have the entire week for Thanksgiving, so maybe there's a way that we can accommodate the preferences of our staff, but also not at the expense of other more important holidays. So maybe there's a way to have less days off at Thanksgiving so that we can accommodate both. I just think it's important the messaging that we send our students and kids.
Right. I mean, like I said, the reason for not using the 17th was TELPAS, which is, like you said, it's an educational need that they took into account rather than the federal holiday. But we can take that back to the lead committee.
The only other,
I'm sorry.
oh, sorry.
We have Trustee Kellerman, and then we have Trustee Aliceta, and then if you, thank you. I'm sorry.
So all three options are an extended day.
Not an extended day, they
Extended
are additional school days.
Okay.
So that meant that we had to go to 180 days.
Was
so
a
that-
traditional calendar given as an option to vote on?
No.
Or-
Mm-mm.
No?
No,
Okay.
it was a 180-day calendar.
So what does that mean for teachers? Like, what are the expectations for teachers, for students to have this 180 day?
So for teachers, it really doesn't mean much difference. Teachers still have 187 contract days, whether students have 176, 177, or 180 days. Teachers still have 187 contract days. What this calendar did do for teachers was it addressed some of the big issues that we had come up on lead committees before, which was teachers did not want all of their professional learning to happen on the first 2 weeks of instruction. They thought it was too much. They wanted it broken down. And then another thing is that teachers ask for planning time. They want planning time during the year. So this calendar does that. It eliminates those 2 weeks at the very beginning of the year, and it gives them the half-day planning. So what changed was the student instruction days. Nothing changed for teacher calendar days.
Okay, so it's like Saturday schools, those will be options. Summer school, how do teachers navigate things like that? Like if we need
Saturday schools are happening now. It's something that has happened for years. Additional day school year calendar just allows us to recoup the money that we already spend on teacher pay through state funding. Summer school is something that happens now. It will happen the same way moving forward. We open up summer school slots. We open it up to teachers who want to teach summer school. And then, it's the same thing. We're just going to be able to recoup some of that money through state funding.
Okay. And I would just like to echo Trustee Regalato's statements too with the Thanksgiving calendar and just like generally to align more with higher education and federal work that our families, you know, don't have to choose between our district and their work or higher education, things like that, that we can align better so we can better serve our community.
Yes.
Trustee, Board President Alisada, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Trustee Saldivar. Ms. Peña, I don't mean to beat up on you. It's just that the way the state runs this, the lead committee, it's kind of counterintuitive that you have to make this presentation to the board and then we're able to tell you our thoughts on it. So please don't take it personally. I agree wholeheartedly with Trustee Peña and Trustee Regalado and Trustee Kilman in the federal holidays. I think that that should be the baseline that's presented in any calendar option, is that the bare minimum, as you know, an Institute of Education honors the federal holidays. To me, that's no brainer. And so when I see Columbus Day on the calendar, that's not a federal holiday. The state of Texas doesn't recognize that day. And it's basically a 3-day weekend because you have a half day off on Friday. What I'd like to see is that you move that and put that weather day on Veterans Day, November 11th, and then you have a half day on that Friday before, and so now you have a 3.5-day weekend in honor of Veterans Day. I'd also like to see the option to people for a shorter Thanksgiving break. You know, the majority of people have to work through Thanksgiving, Monday, Tuesday, and half-day Wednesday, and childcare is a burden on most people. So I'd like to see that be an option on the calendar as well. I think the problem that the trustees have is that all these options are so similar that parents don't feel like they even need to vote on it because there's really no difference. And so we need to give them real differences. And one real difference is the Thanksgiving break. If you were able to take away 2.5 days from Thanksgiving break, you could add that into the winter break and you could give a longer winter break, or you could add it into other areas as well. I too have a problem with taking Super Bowl Monday and taking half that Friday off. I understand that the 17th is a Delpas testing, but that's a window. That's not, the MISD is not giving an assessment on that day, so there's no reason why we couldn't take the 17th, move that weather day, so you get a half day off on the 14th and then get a full weather day off on 17th, which is President's Day. I also have issue with making that, though, a weather day. I don't think it should be a weather day. I think it should be an actual holiday, and you should move the weather day to Friday, April 18th, which is the Easter holiday weekend. I think having 2 days off for that weekend, it would be smarter to make that as a weather day, also because that's later into the semester, and sometimes we get, hurricanes or snow, or we're cold weather, and so the further on into the semester that you have a weather day, I think the smarter that is to do. And also, if you took the days from Thanksgiving, then you could have the President's Day or MLK Day in January. But I do think that it needs to go back to the lead committee with those parameters of, at a bare minimum, the federal holidays, and then a true option of the full Thanksgiving break or shortened Thanksgiving break, so that parents truly do have choices to look at. I'll yield the floor.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you.
Trustee Lopez.
Sorry for interrupting earlier. And just carrying on what everybody else said, I know from, having 3 kiddos, it's so hard. By the end of May, they are checked out. So having Memorial Day off and then having to come back for the last 3 days, that's the hardest part. So I've always thought, I have to work up until Wednesday of Thanksgiving as well. I know historically those were days where we had super high absences, and so that's when we switched to doing the full week because it was costing us money. We had so many students out anyway because parents were checking them out the Friday before to go on a long week vacation, but we know that that's not everybody. So I think there's just so many brainstorming ideas, and I apologize, but thank you.
If I may. Everybody's had a chance, so before I speak. We go through this every year, and so any business has these types of issues. We do. The state of Texas runs public education in the state of Texas. So therefore, they determine the calendars that we're faced with. And they determine what's the holidays for the state of Texas. And we are a state institution derived from the Texas Constitution that created the independent school districts. So that's the reason we're in this dilemma. We're not part of a national educational system. So the federal government creates its holidays probably suited for their employees and their schedules and their payrolls, etc. They're different from ours. Now, there was a statute, I've been trying to find it, I just took a class on this. There was a Senate bill passed that allowed an additional 10 days from the state holidays that the district could use, provided you were a year-round school. And I think we're moving in that direction. It's one of the actions tonight, if we get there. So I couldn't find the bill right off in my phone where I don't know where I placed it. But did you all look at that in addition to the state holidays, did you look at this new statute that allowed an additional 10 days at the district's discretion to utilize those as day offs?
I did not see an additional 10 days as a state.
Yeah, there is a bill on that, but I don't know how it works. But I know one of the criteria is a year-round. Now, year-round, it depends on how the district structures itself, truly 11 months or less. We're not doing the 11, so maybe that's not almost immaterial, but there is that there. There's my take on it. And we have this discussion on Thanksgiving. And no matter what we do, we have people in our community that are going to struggle about what they need to do for their children when they're not in school. And that's why they have children. And those are our responsibility for making those arrangements. A significant amount of our staff have not been traditionally, and maybe less so now, are not from the Rio Grande Valley. They were brought to the valley from all parts, Midwest, when Texas was struggling, and so we still have quite a those folks, and they use that Thanksgiving for going back home to visit family. And so they're not able to travel during the December holidays. That's what they do for that, one. Number two, every surrounding ISD is going to have Thanksgiving off. Everyone. We all know this in this room. Every single one. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anybody in the room if I'm wrong. Every single ISD around us, and that's who we're competing with. They're going to have Thanksgiving off.
The whole week.
The whole week. So we can decide on what we want to decide, but we're going to continue to lose staff because if you're not compensating and you're not giving them benefits, then guess what? They're going to look at time off because they're kids too. See? So they want to be with their kids and if their kids are off in a district, then they're going to move their kids and they're going to go to that district that they're off together. So that's a concern. I totally agree about the federal holiday, but again, we are not a federal institution. We are a state institution, and we're mandated by the Texas holiday schedule, and then you get some flexibility there. So within that flexibility, fine, we could kind of look at it, but the reality is we're getting into real governance here. The board's responsibility is up or down. Now, we vote this down, the administration has to look at it again, but if we're talking about all the parameters that have been discussed right now, is it possible to get all the federal holidays and cover all the things that we've been discussing in the last few minutes? Is it possible at all?
No, not without extending further into June.
So we would have to
Debbie has
extend
something to say, which is not something our community wants either.
Debbie has something to say.
Trustee Aliceta, I'm done. Trustee Aliceta, you have the floor.
Oh, thank you so much. So, Columbus Day is not a state holiday in Texas, Trustee Saldivar, just to make that clear. It's not a federal holiday, nor is it a state holiday. I think that there are many parameters that can be taken back to the lead committee. So I make a motion that we send this back to the lead committee for further discussions and bring back a separate option.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Trustee Aguilera. Any discussion, Trustee, Superintendent Gutierrez?
Okay, I'm still going to propose that the board reconsiders the recommendation by administration. We've been through this for already since November. You're looking at about 3 months or more. We're not gonna find the perfect calendar. We're not gonna find the perfect days that everybody wants. I feel that if the staff wanted certain days off, they would have put them in as options, and they did, some of those days that were talked about, but they were not voted on. I mean, it went up for a vote. And calendar A is the one that had the most votes. January 20th was there on the other options, and it wasn't voted. But if you start taking away from Thanksgiving, if we start looking at holidays and we're looking at other things, then we lose focus of our calendar, and what the intent of the calendar is to be as aligned as we can be with surrounding districts, be in compliance with instructional minutes, provide the ADS-Y that we need so that we could get additional funding, start school a little bit earlier so that we can stay competitive with the charter schools. And these are the options that this calendar gives us, all three of them. But when we come back, we're going to come back and somebody else is going to have some other ideas on some other days that we could be off, or we could have this, or we can have that. My recommendation is that the board decides to vote on this. If you vote it down, then we have to go back to square one and take another month or so, because we're going to have to bring in the committee. We're going to have to revisit everything all over again and start the whole process again. But it's been vetted and reviewed and for 3 months and by different groups and different organizations, and we bring you what the process is like, and it's a very democratic as it can be to bring a calendar for your consideration. Otherwise, maybe it's becoming more of the board's recommendations and more than the staff's recommendations. And if that's the case, then we would like for the board to be part of those committee meetings so that we can all be on the same page. Otherwise, we're going to bring you back a calendar that you don't have input until we bring it to you, and then we're going to have more feedback from the board. Perhaps next time we'll bring board members into the table to be part of the committee.
I have a question, if I may.
Yes.
So just to clarify, option A was the one that had received over 1,300 votes, somewhere around there, by our staff, and they were given about a week or so to respond to it?
Yes.
Was there a comment section on it by chance where they were able to?
No, we don't have a comments. We never have a comment section, but it did receive 1,304 votes.
So out of the weather days, how often are those used up to make up for the weather days? I mean, I know with Texas you never know, right? But say we were to have canceled class for that winter storm this year, then we would have had to have made it up on that weather day, right? So we don't know what's going to happen next year with the weather. So there's a chance that even if it's Super Bowl Sunday, they have to come to school. And it wouldn't make sense to put a weather day on a federal holiday, because then they would have to come to school either way. So I have to tend to agree with our staff and their recommendation and that of the community. So.
Well, this is my concern, but what's happening here. We're getting into real governance. Because the fact of the matter, for us, it should be an up or down vote. The administration's charged with creating their calendar for the staff and for making sure they comply with all state laws and regulations and time frame for executing all the various elements of the testing for the various aspects of it. And here we are governing at a board meeting how it should be. And if it's not that way, when the fact of the matter, the superintendent could bring the same very calendar back for us to vote on. And if I were him, that's what I would do. And then that forces now us and TEA to get involved as to why there's a board governing a calendar. That's the problem I have real concern with here. We're not all going to get what we want, but we got to attract and retain high-quality staff. And that staff this is the same calendar year after year, and we have these same things. I totally agree. Whether Columbus Day is whatever, the point of the matter is the days have been identified. And when it comes to Memorial Day, that is a Veterans Day. That is a day for remembering those that gave the ultimate sacrifice. And that's what we commemorate on that day. And that's why it's looked at the way it is. And it has a great meaning for the veterans community and their families. Okay, and so I understand all these other aspects of it, I really do. But to go over a calendar year after year like this and micromanaging a calendar, I caution the board to vote down this motion, to table it and sending it back. We got a lot of other work to do, a lot of heavy lifting to do. And the reality of it, it's the superintendent, just like the HR and the like, we up or down and we decide what we do next.
I'd like to
Yes.
So my concern, which is what I brought up earlier, that because I had multiple members reach out to me about this process and they said it was not democratic, that they did not, many teachers wanted to originally see a traditional calendar. That wasn't an option given. They were received, all of this was the extended day option. And so that's why I feel that we should be present at these meetings so we can really get an idea, because I'm not hearing that it was a democratic process, and that's my 2 cents about that from
So-
teachers reaching out to me about.
Debbie wants to.
Yes. Trustee Eliseo, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. I mean, I don't want to insult anybody, but Veterans Day is November 11th. That's the day that we honor veterans, and that's not on our calendar. And I do not think it's governing, and I do kind of take insult to that insinuating that we're governing. We vote things up, we vote things down. We vote my motion up, it goes back to the committee, they come back to us, and we can vote that one up or down. I don't think that we should be told by anybody that we don't have the right to vote something up and vote something down. This is a very important issue. It involves our constituents, it involves our consumers, it involves our staff, it involves everybody. And to Trustee Peña and Trustee Regalado's discussion about the Super Bowl Monday, and there is an option to that, is to move it to a federal holiday, which is President's Day. And there is, for my discussion about Columbus Day, there is an option for that, move it to the federal holiday and the state holiday of November 11th. So I'd like to call the question and vote on my motion of sending this back to the lead committee and having them coming back with true options. It doesn't have to be the whole week of Thanksgiving. I mean, we can leave Thanksgiving alone, but there are options within this calendar to move around so that the trustees' opinions are heard.
Again, if you took offense, it was not meant to be an offense. But the fact of the matter, the fact of the matter, I'm not saying you can't make the motion. I'm saying we vote down this motion. You can make the motion. You obviously did, and we're going to vote on it. But the point of the matter, this is governance. We're getting way beyond the means of now sitting in on an administrative. So are we going to sit in on other functions at the administration?
I think the question has been called, so we.
It's not governance. This is not governance. So please retract that. This is not governance. We're voting something up, voting it down.
I am not retracting it because it is. Now, you have a motion on calling for the question. We have to vote on that if we have a second. Do we have a second on the question?
Second.
So we have a motion by Trustee Eliseo on the question and Trustee Lopez on the question. This requires a 2/3 vote. All in favor of ceasing the debate on the item, that's what you're actually voting on the question, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
Nay.
All right, nay. So the motion carries 5-2, and it's 5 is 2/3. So the debate ceases. So the motion was to now we vote on the original motion, which the original motion was to send this back to committee for further action based on the discussion they heard today. Since the question's been called, there's no further debate, so we now proceed to a vote. This is a majority vote. All those in favor of sending it back to the administration for further review and bringing this matter back to the board at a later date, signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
1, 2, 3. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. All those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Nay. Motion carries 4-3, and it goes back to committee. Now, there was a two-parter to this. The other part was approval of the extended additional school day years, which is part of the reason why things have changed. You've only decided on the calendar. There's still that other second part of this presentation. Does anybody want to make that motion about extending the additional days school year?
I move to approve.
All right, it's been a move by Trustee Lopez to approve the extended additional school year. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Rivera. Any discussion?
Just to reiterate, when I asked why we were doing it, and I wholeheartedly agree with Dr. Gutierrez that it is important for us to start earlier. We lose a lot of students to charter districts or charter schools because they do start earlier, and parents have to get back to work. and many by that time in August are ready to go back to school, and the parents are ready for the children to go back to school. So I wholeheartedly agree with the extended option calendar for the support and for budgetary reasons as well for our district. We need it, and if you were anywhere near your computer during our budget workshop, you can see why we are in desperate need of the additional funding for our school district due to the shortfall that the state has turned over to us.
Any other questions or comments? Trustee
Can I ask
Litton.
questions? I just want to be clear, Dr. Gutierrez. Is there any additional workload that comes with an extended day calendar for our staff to pick up? Saturday, anything else?
No, because we're doing a lot of these things. We're just not getting ourselves credit for it. And this additional school days allows us, we have a lot of campuses do Saturday tutorials. They do after school tutorials. They do summer school. But we don't get any funding or any credit for it because we don't have the additional school days calendar. Okay. And when we talk about going back to the democratic process of the calendar is how else are we gonna change this district if we don't offer an option of what we can be better? And we can offer school earlier. If we put the old calendar to vote, a lot of people may not understand how important it is to start early because we lose kids, and we say that over and over again. A lot of people don't understand that all these Saturdays that we do, all these after-school programs that we do, all these summer school programs that we have, we don't get any funding for it because we are not an additional school year. We don't have an additional school year calendar. And that's why we presented those three options, because it's good for the district, it's good for kids, and it's good for everyone in the district. If we were to put the old calendar and they vote on it, we go back to square one and we're not moving forward. We're just stagnant. So that's why we had these three options to make sure that we move the district forward. We give ourselves credit for all those things that we're doing, and we get funded for that, because right now the way it is, we're not. And we can start school earlier so that we can stay competitive with the charter schools and the private schools that are picking up our kids a week or two before us, and they're taking our kids away. And that's what this calendar is all about. That's why we had all these lengthy discussions with everyone as much as we could. And I'm probably going to bring you something very similar again, but if the board voted it down, we're gonna go back, but it's gonna come back almost identical. But we're just gonna waste another month or take another month before we bring it back, but it's okay. We'll do that, and you'll see that it's gonna be almost identical.
Trustee Bill.
Thank you, Vice President Saldivar. I'm just hoping that we give those holidays that merit a little bit more credence, like MLK Day. I think MLK Day is important. It's a day that, and hopefully our kids are being taught, and I'm pretty sure they are, the importance of that day, the significance of that day, and to have it left out. I use that day personally to do something of service, a service project. It's who I am. I hope that our kids are able to experience that as well, because it makes them better. So I know we're voting to send this back, and you probably, Dr. Gutierrez, will bring us something very similar. I just want the staff to make sure that they're giving those important holidays the credence that they deserve, and not just asking for a day which, you know, I got the calls and I got the texts and I got the messages saying, everybody else is off the day after Super Bowl, why not us? You know, I'm sure everybody got those. And I didn't have an answer for that, other than that's what the calendar calls for, and we work on that day. And so, and I work on that day, yes. And then on MLK Day, which we came to a meeting on that day, because this is what we do and what our responsibility is, I had the day off from work, but I was here because it's my day of service, and that's what my service ended up being this year, right? So I just want those holidays that have very, very important significance for a lot of our community and our nation to be given the credence that they deserve. And, you know, some people called me and said, hey, it's MLK Day. We didn't get the day off. We're not gonna appease everyone. That's just the way it is. And Dr. Gutierrez, when you bring us back that calendar, I'm happy to look at it, and it is, if it's the same or very similar, then we'll vote on it then. I just want those holidays that, or those days that we're going to be off, to be days of importance and not just, you know, And I'm just gonna say, yesterday, Super Bowl was over and done with by 9 p.m. And I was at the gym at 5:15 this morning. No complaints. So,
I just want to reiterate that Super Bowl Sunday was not our priority.
I know
was
that.
due to TELPA's
I know that,
testing.
but the messaging that we got from, and I got it from teachers, from staff, from community, all the other districts are off and we're not off. It's gonna be what it's gonna be called. I'm just saying it. I'm not
I
gonna
just wanted
tiptoe
to
around it.
clarify for the lead committee, that was not something that they, we actually look for a day in February because there is no other holiday in February. And we look for a day in October because there is no other holiday in October. And those are months that are hard for teachers.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate the committee that puts so much work into these calendars. I can't even imagine how much detail goes into talking about days and.
Quite a bit.
And I appreciate it, but that is where I stand.
Of course, sure.
Trustee DeVette.
No, I just want to say that, that there are a lot of parents in our community also that do work on holidays. And so for them, they may not have the opportunity on those holidays for somebody to take care of their children. The school district is there for them on those days. I, for example, come from a line of work where we worked on every holiday, Christmas, New Year's, plenty of times that we were there. So I do understand what it is. You know, I would love to have those days off. Some of us have to work those days. And so for those parents that do have to work on those days, the holidays that, I wish we could have every holiday off, but I don't think that's the case. So for the parents that do have to work, I think it's great that the district will be able there to open their doors for them, so.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? This was a two-parter for tonight, and really the first one was acted on second. Had to be first because that sets the stage. Any calendar before the extended no longer applies.
Right.
So, but when if we're about to take this action, once we vote on the approve the extended additional school day years, that's the calendar we have to work with the extended school days that we now have and how they work. Doesn't mean more time, because this time's the same, it's just how it's utilized over a certain period of time. Is that correct, Ms. Pena?
Yes, sir.
And so, I think that's probably how we got sideways, and maybe some staff may not have fully appreciated the fact that there was a move to a extended year period, and that's the direction the superintendent has been working towards based on a recommendation he's made. And this has been available to school districts since 2020. But our district was looking towards and has been pushing, based on the previous superintendent's recommendation, for a district of innovation, which is another way you can change the calendar.
Correct.
But we were not getting community support. 2 efforts, it failed. Had this been brought to our attention 3 years ago, 4 years ago, our district would be in a much better place than it is today. Is that a fair statement to make?
We would
Is that a
have-
fair statement? Yes. All right. And so that's the critical point that we're in, and that's gonna govern what calendar we have going forward. And the one recommended, while it was taken in a different order, this is the first motion that's required, because this sets the stage for what calendar has to be. So that's the item on the table. Any other discussion? All right, there's a motion again to approve the extended additional school day year, and it was seconded. It was Trustee Lopez, Trustee DeVetta was the second. And without any further discussion, we're ready to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, 7-0, motion carries. Thank you. We'll now proceed to item 10A3, discussion and possible action on interlocal agreement 2024-310, City of McAllen for schoolyard forest. Dr. Gutierrez.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, sir.
The McAllen Schoolyard Forest strengthens work being done by Quinta Mazatlan and the City of McAllen, as well as the McAllen Independent School District, to transform school grounds into schoolyard forest and for enhancing education and the environment. We'd like to making a recommendation to the board for us to be a part of this grant and partner with Quinta Mazatlan as well as the City of McAllen for this effort. And so, Dr. De Hoyos, is there any additional information to give on this item?
Ms. Laura Williams is just sharing the information on the grant.
Thank you, Dr. Gutierrez and Board of Trustees and Dr. De Hoyos. This is just to highlight the Schoolyard Forest Partnership, the ILA, that we're looking for the board to approve. Quinta Mazatlan and City of McAllen are applying for a grant that is available from the Texas A&M Forest Service. If awarded the grant, then this would mean, and approved the ILA tonight, this would mean that 7 of our campuses, Alvarez, Field, Sam Houston, Jackson, Roosevelt, Seguin, and Wilson, would receive approximately $390,000 per campus, the overall grant totaling $2.7 million to transform the school grounds into schoolyard forests, and this would bring each one of those 7 campuses to a tree canopy of approximately 30%. And the grant period would run starting summer of '24 through summer of '26.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
27.
So moved.
Excuse me.
Best of luck.
Trustee Alicea, if you would.
So moved, and best of luck. I hope we win this grant. Thank you so much, and I move that we pass this.
Thank you, Trustee Alicea, Madam President. Now I have a second.
Second.
Second by Trustee Kittleman. Any discussion?
I have a little bit of a question. So I know that Mr. Trevino is here, and I'm going to ask about a little bit of the land space for this. These little forests are how big? How much of our land are they going to use for these little forests?
I know that some of these campuses are pretty small in acreage, and looking at the list, this is the first time I see this list here. But we've got some campuses with bigger acreage available for some tiny forests. So.
Hi, I'm Colleen with Quinta Mazatlan. A tiny forest is typically the size of a tennis court. It's a small footprint. This grant is so much more. It's going to provide educational spaces, outdoor teaching spaces, covered teaching spaces, educational interpretive signage, trail walks for exercise, book reading nooks. So the goal is to bring the campus to 30% tree canopy, but there's also a significant amount of funding for environmental education, science curriculum, and teaching the teachers to be the teachers as well. So the tiny forest is just a small percentage of this grant, which is $390,000 per campus.
Ms. Williams, is that a one-time grant? Will we have to sustain this after? I mean, what's the cost, the long-term cost of these little forests? I welcome the $390,000 per campus. I welcome that to create these little forests. As a matter of fact, I think when we first heard about these forests, I offered my yard. Bring those forests to my yard.
Yeah.
But
so
what is the long-term cost of this project? I would like to see our projects in the future costed out. I love the fact that we get money, but what's it going to cost us to sustain it with, training teachers, curriculum, whatever materials we're going to need? What is the long-term cost of these? Maintenance, absolutely. It's a forest. It's going to require some maintenance.
So the tiny forests are designed to be minimal long-term maintenance. You water and weed the first couple of years, and you let nature take over. These are not intensive butterfly gardens, pollinator gardens, food gardens, which take a significant amount of labor. The tiny forests are sprinkled throughout the campus. They can be on the edge of a trail around a soccer field or a football field. It does not need to be clustered together. The goal of the tree canopy is to get the campus to 30% tree canopy. The reason these campuses were chosen is they were identified by the grantor as climate and economic disadvantaged schools. These have very low tree canopy, 5% tree canopy, 7% tree canopy. So there's a very elevated extreme heat measurement on these campuses. So it's about reimagining our schoolyards and improving the health and learning opportunities for our students, and using these outdoor spaces for teaching and enjoyment, or just going off and sitting in a corner and reading a book, and providing that peace time that students need.
Thank you for that, Miss. I am sorry, I just kind of took over the floor.
No, you had the floor. You have a right. It's your time.
Thank you for that information on the little forest. I love the idea, But Ms. Williams, what is the time frame for you to submit this grant?
Actually, Quinta Mazatlan and the city will be submitting the grant. I will turn over our portion of the grant application to them tomorrow with any recommendations that we have as being the district grant writers. Ms. Bolte and myself will turn that over to them, and then they will apply by February 16th, I believe. February 16th? Yes, February 16th.
What was the planning time on this? My fear is that we will receive this money, we will invest in these little forests, and then, you know, a year or two down the road, they're not sustainable, and we end up letting them go, or hopefully not. I love the fact that it's trees and greenery and green space, but we also need playgrounds too, right? We need to upgrade all of our playgrounds as well. So Mr. Trevino did say that the campuses are rather small, and so I would have liked to have gotten this project costed out. You know, give us some kind of information. It's great to put them out there, but if we're not going to be able to sustain them and having to, for lack of a better term, kill the little forest in the future, I'm not about that. You know, so I have some concerns that this is being brought to us with such a short turnaround time. This is next week, or at the end of this week, right, that this is due.
Friday.
You know, I would have liked a little bit more information on this project before agreeing. Granted, it's money that we're going to get, but long term, what's our investment in that? And that's what I want to see for future projects. I want them costed out so that we know what our long-term commitment is. Because it's a shame to put something like this into place and then have to let it go because we can't sustain it.
Yes, ma'am.
The grant requires us to hire a professional landscape architect and all professional staff. Many of these schoolyard forests include an outdoor learning amphitheater. These are logs on gravel. So they're amazing teaching opportunities. So again, just the tiny forest is one element of this. There'll be a natural playscape for children as well, included in the outdoor recreation goals of the tiny forest, schoolyard forest.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Trustee Alisa, Madam President, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I'm just best of luck. I hope they win. I mean, it's very competitive, and so I'm so glad that they brought it to the city of McAllen and to us. So, best of luck.
All right, thank you. I do have a couple questions. How many of these forests are being put on city land property on their parks? I have 92 parks right now. So how many, is there a grant being proposed similar to this to put these forests on city property?
Yes, so we have 3 tiny forests on city property right now. We put our first school tiny forest on Kathy. It's very successful. It's beautiful. The first couple years, again, there is maintenance, but then the forest takes over. The tiny forest at Quinta Mazatlan, we don't water, we don't weed. The grass around the home, the gardens around the home are extremely labor intensive, but the forest you don't touch. Just nature takes over, and birds and butterflies come in. These are 97% native species to the Rio Grande Valley. There'll be a lot of educational signage along the trails for these schools. A lot of these schools have a quarter-mile trails, and trees can be put in different nooks along the trails with private little seating areas as well, with educational information about the flora and fauna unique to the Rio Grande Valley.
So which city parks are these mini forests also going to be?
So we have 3 consecutive tiny forests on Ware Road across from the community center.
Okay. But how many more do you plan? I mean, we already have some within the district, and now we have these additional ones.
So every year the board has an annual fundraiser. It's called Moon Over Mazatlan, and Sam Houston children participated last year. Kathy children participated the year before. And then so we had 4 other donors that gave $35,000 each. So every year we're adding a tiny forest thanks to the support of the local community.
But if I recall attending that event, and I donated to that, to the
Uh-huh.
Sam Houston, those were on school property. How many more do you plan to put on city land, not involving the school district?
We hope to do 2 a year, one on city land and one on school land.
So one a year for city property.
Correct. So this grant is specifically to an ISD school district to promote environmental education and to get the tree canopy, the shade canopy on school campuses. So this funding cannot be used on a park. The one of their goals is that the surrounding community use these facilities, and all of these schools that have been identified have after-school park assistance from Parks and Recreation. So that multiplies its impact 100%, that the community can also use these tiny forests and these trails, which addresses the instructional core goals of the board, is not the students, the teachers, and the neighborhood, the community.
Did the school district, being that they're an instructional institution for public education in this community, did they come up with a lesson plan and an action plan regarding how they wanted to utilize our facilities that they approached either the city of McAllen or Quinta Mazatlan before this application was initiated?
So there is funding in here for a full exercise to involve the board, the principals, the teachers, the neighborhood, in drawing this out, involving the students. And these are the elements that you can include in your schoolyard forest. So that's, once we get the grant, there is funding dedicated to bringing the community and all the school campus leaders together and drawing their own schoolyard forest. It has not been predetermined yet, and each campus is going to be unique, and we want each campus to look unique to the personality of that school.
Okay. This is my concern, and I was trying to find a solution as we had this discussion. And there's a lot of folks that approach us. There isn't a week that goes by I don't get a phone call from somebody that has a great idea about how we can improve public education, how we can improve our campuses, how we can save money, et cetera. And I route that to the administration. And then the administration does its analysis and research and does a cost analysis. And then if they choose, they'll make a recommendation and come to this board. I didn't hear that coming before tonight, that the administration was looking at outsourcing our educational resources to outside entities until today. And so I believe in the forest system. I support it. I donated to it and will continue to donate to it. I think it's important to our world and to our community, especially in a metro area that we become more and more blacktop, that we have trees and the like to cool the temperature down. I understand what all that about, but I think this is somewhat backwards. It should be something that the educational leaders say, these are programs and services we need, and we can do that internally with our own grant efforts, setting up our own curriculum. That's the way public ed works. And so that's a concern, that are we going to continue to do this as a district, where we're now going to be, because if we start, then any cost associated in the future takes away from the maintenance and operation of paying staff. And that's ultimately my concern.
This was designed sort of as a continuation of the Center for Urban Ecology. And the Center for Urban Ecology was never meant to be one campus. I mean, our goal was to get a Center for Urban Ecology at every campus. And right now, every third grader, every fifth grader, every seventh grader, and high school science AP student comes to Quinta Mazatlan. So this is an extension of something that the school has already approved. It just provides more opportunity, and it provides an opportunity on campus for more children to attend. Right now, only 4,000 children come out to Quinta Mazatlan. So this provides an opportunity for, again, more children and the neighborhood to receive the benefits of the children that do come to Quinta Mazatlan. So it's really an extension of what's already in place. And the curriculum was written with the MISD science teachers, and they are funded to write that, and we update that every year. And that same process would apply here, where the teachers would absolutely be involved in the curriculum, and it would be their their direction on how they wanted to use the schoolyard forest. But we wouldn't be directing it. We just have this opportunity to oversee this grant and continue the work at the Center for Urban Ecology.
All right. Thank you very much.
I just want to say that this is a grant that it's with intent to apply, including us. And what I like about partnerships like this is that we're investing in our properties and not somewhere else. It's in our properties. We're beautifying our schools, and our kids are learning a lot about nature, a lot about our surrounding areas, and this grant is going to provide those opportunities. It's very well aligned with our Texas Essential of Knowledge and Skills, and it's aligned also with the state assessments. There's a lot of questions on nature, on science, on trees, on plants, on everything in our state assessments, and this is hands-on for the kids, and it's on our school grounds, and it beautifies our schools at the same time, and it's grant money that is just going to provide those investments and those services on our campuses without having to go somewhere else. So I strongly support it, and I'm glad that Quinta Mazatlan is initiating this with us and investing in our schools, in our playgrounds, and beautifying our schools, and at the same time the kids learning about nature and the things that our surrounding areas offer, and they're going to have that in their schools, in their backyard.
Thank you, Dr. Gutierrez. Any other questions or comments?
Just one quick
Trustee
one.
Uribe.
So I was just going over the agreement here, and it speaks of the management plan. That's between the city and our district, is what I'm assuming, correct? So upon receiving this, hopefully they get it, the grant money, then we come to the table, talk with the city. This is a partnership between us to where I think all of these details will come out at that point. I do want to say 20 years ago when I was at Cathy Middle School, there was projects that we did to plant there, and plants and other things, and I think it's still there. But that did provide a different learning environment for us, and one of the unique things was the kids were able to go. They were able to take care of the garden that was there, so if you chose to. Some don't want to be there on Saturdays when it's 110, but no, I think it's a good deal, and I feel comfortable after reading over all of that. So,
thank you, Trustee Uribe. Any other questions or comments?
I'd just like to
Trustee
echo,
Kim.
yes, thank you. Dr. Gutierrez, everything you said I was about to say it, but it's an amazing gift, $2.7 million for our schools that currently I think our tree canopy is our coverage is under 10% for all of our school district, and you look around and it's barren and it's hot, and our teachers are not going outside, they're not taking our kids outside because of the environment. And planting this, having amphitheaters, walking trails is going to encourage that experiential learning that our kids are not getting right now, and I think they're so important, and I hope we get this too. So thank you.
I have, if I may be recognized. So I think you mentioned previously that all of these parks obviously we have the 7 that are identified here, but the interlocal agreement also indicates that there's flexibility to add parks. Is there a requirement for the grant that these monies that are awarded be used only on school grounds or on city and school? Okay. No, I mean, I think it's a beautiful project. It sounds awesome, and I don't see a downside.
Sounds good. Any other questions or comments? Ready to vote? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, 7-0. Congratulations. Look forward to getting the grant. We'll now proceed to item, there's no items set for 10B, instructional leadership items, so we'll move to 10C, human resources, 10C1, discussion of the Texas Association of School Boards, TASB, localized policy manual, update 122, first reading. Dr. Gutierrez.
Yes, this is the policy manual update 122, first reading. We have to bring it back for a second reading. So this is presented by the Texas Association of School Boards, reviewed by our staff. This update represents legal and local referred policies, local reference policies recently adopted by the state. Administration is presenting this item as a first reading with a final approval for the next board meeting scheduled for Monday, February the 26th, 2024. Mr. Miller has more on this item. Go ahead, Mr. Miller.
Thank you, sir. So TASB Update 122 has 109 legal updates out of the 88th legislature and 12 locals. So I'll go through them kind of quickly. If you have any questions, holler. There's 12 locals. So CQB is replacing the technology resources, cybersecurity. You'll see explanatory notes at the top. That's strictly from TASB. What they're recommending to be adding is in blue. Upon discovery or receiving notification of a breach of system security or a security incident as defined by law, the district shall disclose the breach or incident to affected persons or entities in accordance with the timeframes established by law. The district shall disclose a breach or incident involving sensitive, protective, or confidential student information as required. I've coordinated with all the assistant supes and executive directors, and we concur with this recommendation. CSA is a brand new policy for TASB. It's facility standards, safety, and security. Building access control. Audits of building access control shall include weekly inspections of instructional facilities during school hours to certify all exterior doors are by default set to closed, latch, and lock status and cannot be opened from the outside without a key. The superintendent shall ensure that the findings of the weekly inspections are reported to the district safety and security committee and reported to the campus principal or lead administrator of the instructional facility to ensure awareness of any deficiencies identified. Campus principal or lead administrator shall assign appropriate staff to take action to reduce the likelihood of similar deficiencies in the future. The results of the weekly report shall be kept for review as part of the required safety and security audit. The district's building access control procedures shall not be interpreted as discouraging parents or guardians who have been properly verified as authorized visitors from visiting their student's campus. And see policy GKC. Administration concurs with TASB's recommendation. Board policy DC, employment of non-contractual personnel. So for the employment of a bus driver related to a board member or the superintendent, TDBE legal, that's what they're recommending. This only applies, I'm going to jump up to explanatory notes. House Bill 1789 creates a nepotism exception for hiring bus drivers regardless of county population if the board approves employment. If the board does not approve employment of bus drivers, that's delegated to the superintendent. So administration concurs with TASB's recommendation to include that in there. This DP policy, personnel, I'm going to read the explanatory notes. Senate Bill 763 authorizes districts to employ chaplains or accept chaplains as volunteers to provide support, services, and programs for students as assigned by the board. Tonight, administration will be presenting a draft board policy GKG, first reading, and a resolution in response to Senate Bill 763. Per Texas Association of School Boards, board policy DP local is only applicable if the district is considering employing a chaplain, and that is not administration's recommendation. No changes to TASB policy DP local is necessary as a result of 122. Board policy EHB, dyslexia and related disorders. This is recommended to add for TASB. The district shall comply with all rules and standards adopted by the State Board of Education and guidance published by the Commissioner of Education to implement the program to test students for dyslexia and related disorders. Administration concurs with TASB's recommendation. Board policy EHBC. You'll see all that stuff is crossed out. They are moving that stuff to policy EHBCA, which is next. EHBC is keeping this part, the bottom part, additional definitions of at-risk student. In addition to applying state criteria, the district shall classify as at-risk any student who receives services from supplementary or intervention programs. All the stuff lined out in red is being deleted. Number 2 has been absent for more than 10 days in a semester, and adding pending graduation requirements. As permitted by law, the district shall use compensatory education funds to provide services to such students. And there's the policy reference. Administration concurs with this TASB recommendation. EHBCA, this is a new policy that all this stuff was just crossed out in red. This is where it was moved to. Any student who has been identified as being at risk of dropping out of school, who is not performing at grade level, or who did not perform satisfactorily on a state mandated assessment shall be provided accelerated and or compensatory educational services. Accelerated instruction. The district shall provide accelerated instruction in accordance with law if a student fails to perform satisfactorily on a state mandated assessment. A parent request. If a student fails to perform satisfactorily on a state mandated assessment, a parent requests that the student be assigned to a particular teacher the following school year shall be addressed in accordance with the district's administrative procedures. Accelerated education plan. Appropriate district staff shall develop an accelerated education plan for a student who fails to perform satisfactorily on the same state mandated assessment for 2 or more consecutive years. A parent complained about the content or implementation of the accelerated education plan shall be filed in accordance with FNG policy. Administration concurs with TASB recommendation. Board policy EIC. I'm going to read the explanatory notes. House Bill 3803 permits parents to elect to have their student repeat a high school course in which the student was enrolled during the previous school year unless the district determines the student has met all requirements for graduation. Much conversation with TASB on this policy. Administration coordinated with TASB Policy Service to discuss this policy further. TASB forwarded a draft EIC local policy with different options for administration to consider. Administration needs to meet to discuss these options, coordinate with TASB policies to finalize a draft local policy to bring to the board in the near future. There is no action for administration to take on this policy at this time. Board policy FEA. This Senate Bill 68 allows the district to excuse a student from attending school for career investigation days to visit a professional's workplace during the student's junior and senior years to determine the student's interest in a career in the professional's field. Excused absences recommending to add under career investigations, the district shall excuse a student for up to 2 days during the student's junior year and up to 2 days during the student's senior year to visit a professional's workplace for purposes of exploring the student's interest in pursuing a career in that professional field. And cosmetic change at the bottom, withdrawal for non-attendance. The district may initiate withdrawal of a student under the age of 19 for non-attendance under the following conditions, and they just took 10 and spelled out and put a number 10. Administration concurs with this TASB recommendation. Board policy FFAC. This is a recommended revision to this policy are based on Senate Bill 629, which requires a district to adopt a policy regarding maintenance, administration, and disposal of opioid antagonists at each campus that serves students in grades 6 through 12. Medication provided by the district. Adding in blue, except as required by law and provided by this policy, the district shall not purchase medication to administer to a student. Notice to parents. In accordance with law, the district shall provide notice of the policy to parents regarding the EpiRen program, including notice of any change to or discontinuation of the program. Same policy. And this is continued, bear with me, yeah, in place. Opioid antagonist provision shall be applicable to every campus. On campus, the district authorizes school personnel who have been adequately trained to administer an opioid antagonist in accordance with law and this policy. Administration of an opioid antagonist shall only be permitted when the authorized and trained individual reasonably believes a person is experiencing an opioid-related overdose. Each applicable campus shall have at least one individual who is authorized and trained to administer an opioid antagonist and present during regular school hours. Maintenance, availability, training, and reporting. Each applicable campus shall have at least 2 unused, unexpired opioid antagonist doses available. All opioid antagonists shall be stored in a secure location and shall be easily accessible by individuals who are authorized and trained to administer an opioid antagonist. The superintendent shall develop administrative regulations addressing acquisition, maintenance, expiration, and disposal of opioid antagonists in the district, as well as reporting, employee training, and emergency notification requirements. Consulted with our district nursing program, and the administration concurs with this TASB recommendation. TASB Board Policy FFB, Student Welfare Crisis Intervention. Let me see. Recommended revisions to this local policy on crisis intervention include the following. In accordance with House Bill 3, provisions have been added at student reports to require each campus to establish a clear procedure for students to report concerning behavior by another student. Revisions at employee confidentiality are based on Senate Bill 1720 and allow employees who report a potential threat to elect to keep their identities confidential. The stuff in blue is the recommended additions. Student report, each campus shall establish a clear procedure for a student to report concerning behavior exhibited by another student for assessment by the team or other appropriate district employee. For employee confidentiality, a district employee who reports a potential threat may elect for the employee's identity to remain confidential and not be subject to disclosure under the state's public information law. The employee's identity shall only be revealed when necessary for the team, the district, or law enforcement to investigate the reported threat. The district shall maintain a record of the identity of a district employee who elects for the employee's identity to remain confidential. Administration concurs with this recommendation. Board Policy FL. TASB. So House Bill 1416 repeals provisions related to accelerated learning committees. The references to the accelerated learning committees have been replaced with references to the accelerated education plan that now must be created for certain students who fail to perform satisfactorily on state assessments. These next few slides are a little bit different in that you'll see TASB formatting. So they took superintendent in red, crossed it out, and restated superintendent. So this is all cosmetic formatting for TASB. So you're gonna see a lot of the yellow TASB formatting. The exception is the second bullet, types of education records. The record custodian shall be responsible for the education records of the district. These records may include, number 4, all documentation regarding a student's testing history and any accelerated instruction he or she has received, including any, and I recommend getting rid of documentation of discussion or action by, so including any accelerated education plan developed by the district. And on the next page, all that is formatting, you'll see they repeated the same thing. Now at the bottom part, they just changed the word 10 into the number 10. I think there's one more, yeah. So this has to be formatted, and they took the same thing and just restated it. So it's same verbiage exactly. Administration concurs with TASB's recommendation. And that's it. And this is the first reading, so I'll be back at the next board meeting for the second reading.
So there's no action on this item, it was just a
No
discussion?
action on this item, sir.
It is subject to questions from the board if anybody has a question. Much of it is driven by the legislature and regulation by TEA. Some of them is legal, so the board has the purview to vote it down, just like, you know, any governmental body could decide to disagree with the state and vote it down, but, you know, good luck with that. The local is up to, obviously, our local, and administration attorneys is agreeing with TASB's recommendation on the localized ones. And much of it is driven by its legislature or regulation as a result of legislation. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, thank you very much. Thanks for your presentation, Mr. Miller. That was very comprehensive. We now go to 10C2, discussion and proposed board policy GKG local, first reading. Dr. Gutierrez.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 763 passed by the 88th Texas Legislature requires each school board to take a recorded vote between September 1st of 2023 through March 1st of 2024, so we're still within that timeline, on whether to adopt a policy authorizing a campus of the district to employ or accept as a volunteer a chaplain under the Education Code 23. Mr. Miller will be presenting on this item, and we've kind of like came up with a recommendation on how to put this in a local policy where it complies with this requirement. Go ahead, Mr. Miller.
Yes, sir. Thank you. This is the policy that I referenced, and we have a resolution following that relates to this. So this is a recommended new policy, GKG local, and add policy. The district encourages all members of the community who are not otherwise prohibited by law to serve as volunteers. The district shall use volunteers to provide assistance in areas that support and enhance teaching and learning, support the welfare of the students and or staff, and support the districts in other areas of need. The application, I know this is a new policy, but this is a recommendation from TASB. I said we don't have an application part of our process at this time. Criminal history check. The district shall obtain the criminal history record for prospective volunteers when required by law or the district. Once received, the district shall determine the person's eligibility and inform approved volunteers when their services are to begin. Today we use the Raptor system when you go up to our campus. Authority, district volunteers shall work directly under the supervision of the campus principal or a district employee in accordance with administrative regulations. Administrative regulations shall be established regarding the qualifications, training requirements, duties, and other relevant information about the district volunteer program. And training, volunteers shall complete district training requirements prior to participating in the district's volunteer program. And this is the first reading for this policy.
Is that your presentation, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Any questions or comments?
I have one question. Why was the application process omitted from the, is that?
That's the TASB draft policy, but we don't have the application part of our process today, so our policy. Like I said, this is the first reading.
But our Raptor system would catch anything, right?
Yes, that's covered under the criminal history record check, right there below the red. So I walk up to a campus, I pull my driver's license out, if I have something there, it's gonna show up.
We're talking the chaplain one, right?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry,
No,
you
no,
have
no,
the floor.
Trustee Rivera still had the floor.
I'll speak after Trustee
Did you
Aliceda.
I know, but you were speaking, did you?
I'm done.
All right, trustee Eliseo. Trustee Eliseo, you have the floor, Madam President.
Thank you so much. You know, here in McAllen ISD, the reason that we're not a district of innovation is because we believe in having certified teachers with our children. The same goes to having licensed counselors. When you're talking about children ages 4 to 18, you want to have somebody, I want to have somebody talking to my child that has a college degree, that has a master's in counseling, that goes to yearly trainings on how to talk to my child. Children are the most impressionable. And so to have, you know, I understand how they have chaplains in like prisons and things like that when you're dealing with adults. But to have people that are not certified teachers, that are not certified in the areas of counseling these young minds, to have them have the access to my child, I'm adamantly against that. I believe wholeheartedly that people that are counseling our young children should be licensed in that, should be going to constant trainings about it to know what they can and cannot say, because these children are so impressionable. So I wasn't quite sure if this was up for action this evening. It looks like it is an actual item, so.
It's a first reading. It's a first reading, Madam President. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh, it's a
Yeah.
first reading.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
well then I will
But you still
not
have the
make
floor.
it.
Go ahead, go ahead.
No, I just think it's unfathomable to have somebody talking to my child that's not a licensed counselor that's giving them advice. You know, I mean, we wholeheartedly trust our counselors and we hire counselors and we hold them in the highest regards because they do have that expertise and that constant training that we're saying them to, and that knowledge that it's not, you know, I mean, I sent my child to school to go talk to a counselor because of the advice that counselors have that's better than myself, and that's my own child. I can't imagine letting them go to somebody that just is associated with the church and says they're a chaplain. So that's my 2 cents on it.
Thank you,
I'll
Madam
yield
President.
the.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else?
Yes.
Yes, trustee Penny.
I have to also agree. One, what would a chaplain be doing all day long? You know, that's the counselor's responsibility. And also, a chaplain has the, there's an assumption that a chaplain has there's a religious connotation with a chaplain. And so I don't know if this is something the community wants, that, you know, could, you know, cause an issue with someone in the community if the kid comes home and says, well, the school chaplain sat and talked to me. Whoa, that could open a whole nother,
Can you put the language
Put it at the very top.
we're not, that's why it's worded that way.
okay, so, we're talking, in here it says either hire, employ or use volunteer chaplains. So are we looking to employ, are we just putting this in a policy just in case we want one in the future? I mean, this was kind of like, well, do we need a chaplain? We've got so many qualified counselors.
We're required to have it, right?
No.
We're required to, the resolution is coming forth, so we have to have a local policy that talks about that very first sentence. The district encourages all members of the community who are not otherwise prohibited by law to serve as volunteers.
We're not necessarily hiring a chaplain or looking to even use one.
No,
Okay.
if I may,
That's what we did right there.
in my presentation, I talked about policy DP, Delta Papa, and DP per TASB, that's if you're gonna hire one. That's not administration's recommendation. We don't wanna hire no chaplain. This is our volunteer program. This could be helping teachers, I don't know, with gym class or science, I don't know, any volunteers.
Yeah.
Very broad, volunteer program.
Got it. You cleared up my question, so I'm good.
I think it answers.
Sorry if that was confusing.
Trustee Regalado.
I'm thoroughly confused because of what you're saying, what you just said about a volunteer is not what we discussed and that's not what's on our agenda. And furthermore, items 10C2 and 10C3 read almost the same. So I'm also with, when President Aliseda mentioned she thought it was for action, there is an action item, so I'm confused. Can somebody just explain what it is that we're doing and what we are required to do by law under Senate Bill 763?
Mr.
Yes, sir, Dr. Go ahead, Dr.
Can we open up the discussion between C2 and C3 to answer Ms. Regalado's question? Because I think they go hand in hand.
Yes, Ms. Garcia, you had something you'd like to say?
Because it opens up.
I would make a motion
All right.
if we need to.
No. The superintendent has made a suggestion. Do I have a consensus that we want to go ahead and simultaneously discuss 10C2 and 10C3. Is the board comfortable with that?
Yes.
Does anybody oppose that action? All right, then we're gonna proceed to discuss, and maybe in clarity, 10C2 and 10C3 simultaneously. Go ahead, Mr.
Thank
Miller.
you. So if I may, I'm just gonna read the resolution of the board, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's now, you're talking about 10C3, so you wanna
Yes.
go to that item and read
So
that.
resolution of the board to employ or accept as volunteers chaplains. Whereas section 23.001 of the Texas Education Code permits the district to employ or accept as a volunteer a chaplain to provide support, services, and programs for students as assigned by the board. Whereas Senate Bill 763, passed by the 88th Texas Legislature, requires each school board to take a record vote between September 1st, 2023 and March 1st, 2024, on whether to adopt a policy authorizing the campus of the district to employ or accept as a volunteer a chaplain under Education Code, Chapter 23. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of McAllen Independent School District affirms the practice of a district campus permitting a chaplain to provide support, services, and programs for students in accordance with the district's GKG local policy. So remember, DP is we want to hire, GKG if we just want to allow volunteers. And I go back to that top sentence there, if they're otherwise, unless they're otherwise prohibited by law.
I do see the, just for clarity, I don't mean to jump the gun because I shouldn't speak until the end, but just to be clarifying, I do see the confusion because this is a first reading, and yet the resolution on 10C2 was for tonight. And I really don't see how you could vote on the second one without first going to the second reading on the first one, even though they're the same, but they're distinctly different actions. I get that. But it probably behoove us to not take action on 10C3 tonight until we decide what we're going to do with 10C2 and we have clarity.
Well, and
Go ahead, you
to
have the
be
floor.
further clear, they're not distinct. We said employ or accept as a volunteer, or and in 10C2, and 10C3 also says employ or accept as a volunteer, so they're not distinct.
No, they're not distinct, but they're two different actions.
Right.
And they go contrary to the fact that you haven't even had the second reading on the first to even decide on the first, to then decide on the resolution. That's the
And so-
point I'm trying to make.
Just so that I can understand, the legislature is requiring us to just address the issue of whether we want to do this in our district or not. Is that correct?
That's correct. You to take a record vote between September 1st and March 1st.
So if we decide as a district that this is not something our community wants or needs, we're well within our right to not allow this in our district.
But let me finish reading the sentence if I may. On whether to adopt a policy authorizing the campus of the district to employ or accept as a volunteer a chaplain under Education Code Chapter 23. So it's an employee, not recommending that, or volunteer.
Right, no, I'm not asking what our district is recommending. I'm asking, under the law, are we required to do either of those things?
No.
Well,
Right?
The first part, Ms. Long, if you would, maybe you can
Yes,
clarify.
yes, Shelley Smith, thank you so
Oh,
much
Mr.
for allowing me to address you tonight. So for this one, you actually just have to make a vote on whether or not, you would allow them to either be volunteers or to serve as, or to be employed. And it's one or the other. So what the heart of this is essentially saying that when a chaplain, because they are just saying to volunteer just like any other regular member of your community, you're not making content-based restrictions because they're a chaplain here or a chaplain there. So they're just signing up to volunteer regularly like anybody else.
But the law doesn't require us, we don't have to choose employ, or, like, we're not required to have chaplains in our schools. is my
No,
question.
no, ma'am.
Okay.
But,
That's not clear here.
but the point is that to make it a position of the district in policy, the administration is recommending the volunteer, just to put it on the record that anybody can volunteer and you have to follow the normal protocol for that. We're not supporting hiring, which is the statute was requiring the hiring part. So to avoid that issue, that's why the administrator, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's why you're making a
That is correct.
recommendation for the volunteer aspect of it.
Right, but we're not talking volunteers like I wanna come help clean the school.
It
We're
could be,
talking
a
about-
volunteer's a volunteer.
No, 763 is volunteers, it's chaplains.
I know, but we're talking about the policy. The reason the policy is worded, it's very benign in the sense it doesn't talk about chaplains within that policy. See, the word chaplain is not, if you were hiring, then you'd have to have a policy explaining what your policy is for hiring a chaplain, if that's what I understood. Is that correct, Ms. Smith?
Yes,
Ms. Smith,
that's correct.
am I right?
Yes, that's correct. Sorry.
And that's not what's being proposed here. We're proposing to stay with the volunteering aspect of it.
Right.
But anybody can volunteer, but you're making that known. Oh, Trustee Eliseo. You have the floor.
Thank you. I believe that Trustee Regalado is right, and no offense to legal counsel this evening, but that resolution very clearly says that the district would be accepting the chaplain as a role of a chaplain coming as a volunteer. It's not saying that, my son's a police officer, he's gonna come on the campus as a police officer. We wouldn't allow that. And that's what it's saying. It's saying that you're a chaplain and we're allowing you to come on as a volunteer in the guise of a chaplain. And so that's what the resolution is saying. If we vote yes, then we're saying, yes, you can come onto our premises in the role of a chaplain. Because you can come on as a volunteer as a chaplain and not be a chaplain. You can just be a parent. So I don't see the need to make, to single out that one discipline, because anybody can come and volunteer on our campus, provided they follow the background checks. I'm in total non-agreement with this resolution. I think it opens up a Pandora's box. Then what religion are you gonna do? Are you gonna do this month with this religion, next month with this religion? I mean, I just don't think that, it's wise to go this direction. And we have volunteers on campus all the time, and there's a way to volunteer, and we already have that in place. So to say that somebody can come in as a chaplain on our campuses, like I said before, I think it's, they're not certified in that area, they're not licensed in that area. To talk to my child, I think that you need to have a license, and I'm totally against this. I'll yield the floor.
All right, don't listen to me as the messenger. Forget my name and all of that, just listen to this point. These are two separate issues. The first one is a first reading. The second one, we can act today and do exactly what we've been talking about, which is vote down the resolution. In other words, we do not want a chaplain on our campuses. So that's the point, is that the first one, if we wanted a chaplain, then it wouldn't make sense necessarily to vote on that resolution until we decide on the policy. But if we're leaning towards not wanting a chaplain, then the second reading still would come forward, because we're not talking about a chaplain. We're talking about volunteer clarification going into the future. There's not even a word chaplain in the policy being recommended by the administration. It's just to further clarify your point and Trustee Regalado's point. Is volunteers is volunteers.
Yes, if I may, your point that you made, Trustee Aliseda Crane, is correct. That is the goal. I think on the recommendation of council, we would propose that we table this and at least propose at a later date a more properly worded resolution.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions or thoughts? Are we good to table item 10C3? 10C2 was first reading, so that by itself moves forward. But 10C3, are we going to table that or take action?
Do we need a motion to table?
No.
Yeah.
No.
I recommend tabling it.
Yeah.
But they need a motion and take action, or just?
Actually, it's better
Just a
not to
motion
take
to
a table motion. What we could do is take no action at this time motion, which
Yes,
is better.
absolutely.
Yeah. So
Okay.
we can have a motion to take no action on 10C3 if that's what you want. Tabling means anytime during the meeting, parliamentary, somebody can bring it back, and that's the reason you really want to finite this. So, do you want to make a motion?
Take no action.
All right.
Second.
There's a motion to take no action by Trustee Lopez. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Regalado to take no action. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it 7-0. We took no action under 10C. 3. Okay, we now move with 10C, D1 has already been heard. We go to 10D2, report regarding tax collected for December 2023.
Yes, sir. Ms. Lorena Garcia, our Deputy Superintendent for Business and Operations, will report on the monthly taxes collected by the Hidalgo County Tax Office on behalf of McAllen ISD. Go ahead, Ms. Garcia. And this is for December 2023.
The report regarding taxes collected for December 2023. The levy to date plus the modifications is 87,631,567.18.
Yeah.
Our collections to date are 28,471,945.77. In terms of a comparison from last year to current year collections, the current year percentage is a little bit lower, continues to be a little bit lower as it was last month. 2023 collection for the 2023 tax roll is at 30.87%, whereas last year it was at 41.35%. 22 and priors is at 20.54 and 18.78 as comparison to last year. So that one is a little bit higher. Any questions?
Any questions from the board? Trustee Alexander? No? Good.
Do we move on to the next?
Are we done?
It's an information item.
All right, we now proceed to item 10D3, report regarding the monthly financial and quarterly investment report for December 2023. Dr. Gutierrez.
Go ahead, Ms. Lorena Garcia, on this
This
report.
is, yes, sir. This is also an information item. This is the report regarding the monthly financial and quarterly investment report for December 2023. The total revenues for year-to-date actual is 109,567,755, with the total expenditures of 104,519,461, with revenues over expenditures of 5,048,293. In regards to the investment report, our ending market value is 157,465,494, with an average yield to maturity for the grace period of 4.820. Total earnings to date for the month of December ending December 31st were $608,319.83. Our fiscal year to date is $3.4,012,831.29. This concludes this information item.
Thank you, Trustee. Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, we go to 10D4, approval of the McAllen Independent School District January budget amendment for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2024. Dr. Gutierrez.
Yes, for this item, the administration is recommending the approval of the January 2024 budget amendment for the 23-24 fiscal year.
Thank you, Dr. Gutierrez. What say you, board?
Yeah.
We do have some highlights, just on the big ticket items. Under the federal revenue, we do have an increase to the breakfast program, the National School Lunch Program, and federal revenue through the state. This was due to higher participation rate from the students in Fund 101. It's at $1.5 million in revenue, and you see that same amount in the expenditures column, and that is so that they may be able to increase their food budget. In addition to that, under the expenditures, we have another big ticket item, $300,000 transfer from assigned fund balance for Fund 199, and this is for some repairs that will be done to marquees at Alvarez, Perez, Sanchez, Seguin, Thigpen, Zavala Elementary Schools, and Morris Middle School. In addition to that, we are have a transfer from the fund balance for Fund 101 food service that they're using some of their funding to be able to purchase equipment for the kitchen renovation projects at Wilson, Rayburn, Roosevelt, Garza, and and Garza Elementary School at $1.6 million. So those are the highlights on the budget amendment.
Thank you. Any questions on what was just presented? It's on the screen. It's also, I think, in your packet. Any one of those items that any board members may have a question, comment?
I have just one quick question on the $300,000 for the marquees. Was that due to the windstorm that we had? Do we know? Oh, sorry. Mr. Rubin? Oh, digital. Sorry.
Mrs. Camilla.
Hello.
Hi, thank you.
Just to answer that quick question, these marquees are aged, so it's the longevity of it is no longer viable, so we're having to replace them, yes.
I'll follow up on that. Sometime back, 2014 or so, there was an effort to get all the marquees up to date, and the district would take care of that. No longer parents would have to raise money and the like. But at that time, the board had suggested that they be synchronized in a way that they could be remotely updated or changed. It didn't happen.
Correct.
And so are these being able to be synchronized and changed, so from any location on your laptop, whatever, you could make a posting or announcement?
Yes, we are going to solicit that requirement where we'll be able to have anytime, anywhere access to the marquees, and we would have different privileges. So the district could actually manage a certain portion of the marquee, and then have the campus have their whatever initiatives they have, they can have that as well, and it would be centralized as well. So these will be the beginning of that piece. The other is that we're gonna integrate the stadium scoreboard to the solution, so we could eventually use it as one of our alert systems as well.
Excellent.
In the future. Yes.
Very good. And this is part of, this has all been approved by the board in previous actions, so
Yes.
this is just an amendment to our budget, because whenever you make changes, you gotta approve it, so this has already happened, and it was prior board approval. But is this on a repair schedule?
Yes, we do have a replacement cycle.
Replacement cycle.
It's just that these are totally out, so there's no communication at those campuses at this time with marquees. So this is why they're on a priority basis.
Gotcha.
Yes. And then we have the rest of the replacement cycle for the rest of the marquees for the district.
Thank you,
Yes.
Ms. Any other questions or comments?
I move to approve.
Second.
Then moved by trustee Lopez, Delegasa Lopez, second by trustee Rivera. Any further comment or discussion?
Is it a three-part?
No, that's not.
No, not, that's the next
Sorry, I
one.
moved ahead.
That's okay. Again, this is item 10D4, and these are the budget amendment is what's happening. No further questions, discussion, let's proceed to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, 7-0. We'll now proceed to 10D5, and yes, there are several parts to this if the board wishes to take action. This is discussion and possible action on the competitive seal bid proposal number 2024-1025 McAllen Memorial High School, William B. Travis Middle School, and Instructional and Guidance Center, new surveillance cameras and intercom systems. Dr. Gutierrez.
Yes, the administration, we solicited proposals to install surveillance cameras and intercom systems at various school locations. Ms. Judith Escamilla, Executive Director of Technology. Also, Mr. Trevino, in case there's any questions on facilities, they're available for any questions the board may have on this item.
Is there any presentation or anything you want to mention regarding this?
This is just one of the initiatives that we have for the district, increasing our security parameters and our safety. And we're converting a lot of the security system that's in place right now is not complementing the new solution that we're putting in place. So this is the beginning of, well, not the beginning of, is a continuation of our security camera, physical security, and then also our communication when it comes to intercom. So it's gonna be all IP-based, it's gonna be centralized, and it'll be a better solution for our police department as well.
Excellent. Some of this, but it was that you had mentioned when you came on board so many years ago, that you saw as the solutions, these
Correct.
are starting to come to fruition?
These are finally, yes, so we have kind of like a half and half going on right now, where we're creating an IP-based security system already. And this high school will be the first high school that we actually take on to do it fully. We've done all the middle schools already. So we're really excited to take on this Memorial High School as one of our first major IP-based systems.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments from the board?
I'd like to just say that some of these surveillance systems and cameras that they're incredible. And I love the fact that we are being innovative in this area, because this really helps to secure our facilities, and I love that police department is completely involved in that process. So thank you very much for that.
And in your packet are the three motions in blue. If anybody wants to start with the first, and if they want to keep going, do I have a
Mr. Vice
motion?
President,
Yes.
I move to recommend the administration approve the ranking for selection of general contractor for competitive seal bid proposal CSP number 2024-1025, McAllen Memorial High School, William B. Travis Middle School, and Instructional Guidance Center, new surveillance cameras and intercom systems.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Rivera. A motion was trustee De La Garza Lopez. Any discussion or questions, comments? Hearing none, proceed to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, 7-0. Will not,
Mr. Vice President, I would like to move to approve that administration begin with negotiations with the highest ranked contractor. If the district is unable to negotiate a satisfactory contract with the selected contractor, the district shall formally and in writing end negotiations with that contractor. And,
if we can take that first motion.
okay,
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Peña and a second by trustee De La Garza Lopez. Any further discussion or question or comment? Hearing none, proceed to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, 7-0, motion passes.
Mr. Vice President, I move to authorize the superintendent to execute a contract in accordance with the procedure set out in Texas Government Code Section 2269.254 once contractor negotiations have been successfully achieved. Sorry, ran out of
It's all right, a little air there.
air.
Ran out of air. All right, do we have a motion by trustee Rivera? Do I have a second?
second,
I heard
let it be.
trustee De La Garza Lopez. Any questions, comments, discussion?
No.
Hearing none, let's vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, 7-0, motion carries. We now go to 10D6, report regarding intention to apply for the 2024-2025 Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, for an all-inclusive playground at Juan Seguin Elementary and William B. Travis Middle School Community Track Project. Dr. Gutierrez.
Yes, through the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974, local governments with populations of 50,000 or more are eligible for funds from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, better known as HUD, for projects dealing with neighborhood improvements. Ms. Williams is available for any questions in regards to this item.
Thank you, Dr. Gutierrez. These are the highlights of the FY fiscal year 24-25 Community Development Block Grant, also known as CDBG. We did submit an application on February 2nd requesting $740,000 for the two projects, an all-inclusive playground at Juan Seguin Elementary and then a community track project at Travis B. Middle School. Here is a schematic of the all-inclusive playground, requesting $390,000 for Seguin Elementary. And here's another version of the schematic. Here's a different layout of what we would, if we received the CDBG grant for Seguin. Then going on to the community track project at Travis Middle School, where we are requesting $350,000 here for an all-inclusive, a community track at Travis Middle School. These are two projects that we have submitted applications previous school years for the CDBG grant, so we're hopeful that maybe third time is a charm going after this, that we will be able to receive this grant for these two projects, and this would be in collaboration working with FMO on this grant.
Fair enough. Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments? All right, this is for information only. Thank you. We'll now proceed to 10E, Board of Trustee items. 10E1, approval of Board Education meeting minutes. This is regarding regular board meeting of January 22nd, 2024 at 5 p.m. and the School Safety and Security Committee meetings of January 24th, 2024 at 12 p.m.
Move to approve.
Moved by trustee Peña. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Rivera. Any questions? Any clarifications? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, 7-0. At this time, we'll go to number 11. Recess to closed session. The Board of Trustees may go into closed session pursuant to section 551.071, 551.072, 551.074, and 551.076, and 551.089 of the Texas Government Code to discuss the following. 10A, discussion of human resource recommendations for school year 2023-2024. 11B, discussion of human resource employee resignations and retirees for the school year 2023-2024. 11C, recommendation for Director of Human Resources. 11D, discussion of intruder detection audit report findings. 11E, discussion with legal counsel regarding Quinta Mazatlan and International Museum of Art and Science. 11F, pending and or potential litigation, specifically 11F1, McAllen Independent School District versus Oscar Alejandro Martinez and Wendy Anayi Garza, cause number C0040-24-Z. And then 11G, possible real estate acquisition. So at 7:57, the Board of Trustees is now recessed to closed session. This is the regular board meeting of the Board of Trustees. This is Monday, February 12th, 2024. It is now 10:13. The board has been in closed session, and we just returned. Just for the record, there was no action or votes taken in closed session. Also for the record, Trustee Aliceda, our board president, was involved in closed session, but she is gone offline for the rest of this board meeting at 10:13 p.m. So we now go to agenda item, going for closed session.
Mr. Vice President?
Yes, ma'am?
Before we go into the closed session items, I would like to bring back item 10D4 for reconsideration by the board.
All right, we have a motion by Trustee De La Garza Lopez to bring items 10A.
D4.
It's 10A2.
Oh, I got it. I had the wrong one.
The calendar one?
The
It's
calendar.
10A2.
It's 10A2. Is that the one you wanted to
That's
do?
the calendar?
Yes, I was looking at the one.
So, 10A2, which is discussion and possible action on the 2024-2025 school calendar to include an extent, well, we already took care of that action. So we have a motion, but
Second.
we have a second by Trustee Peña. So any discussion? Again, if the administration could point, is there anyone representing that can state what the recommendation is, if you would, please, just for the record?
The recommendation is to go with calendar 8.
So the recommendation of the administration is to go with calendar 8. There's a pre-worded language there, if you wish to use that to make your motion.
I move to approve the 24-25 option A school calendar.
Second.
Before we do that, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. We have to vote on the reconsideration first.
Oh.
So we had a motion by Trustee De La Garza Lopez and a second by Trustee Peña. Any discussion regarding that motion to reconsider item 10A2? Hearing none, proceed to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, 6-0. Motion carries. So now we go to proceeding to the actual motion.
I move to approve the 24-25 option A school calendar as recommended.
Second.
So we have Trustee De La Garza Lopez motion, and we have a second by Trustee Peña. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, 6-0. Motion carries. Calendar's been approved.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you all very much for. We now go to actions in closed sessions. 13A, discussion and possible action on human resource recommendations for school year 23-24. Dr. Gutierrez.
Yes, the Human Resources Department is submitting a list of recommendations for the 23-24 school year under separate cover that was discussed during closed session. Administration is recommending action on this item.
Say your board.
So moved.
Moved by Trustee De La Garza Lopez.
Second.
I have a second by Trustee Peña. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, 6-0. Motion carries. Go to 13B, discussion human resource employee resignations and retirees for school year 2023-2024. Dr. Gutierrez.
Yes, the Human Resources Department is submitting a list of resignations and retirees for the 23-24 school year under a separate cover that was discussed during closed session. This item is for information purposes only.
Does any board member have any question or inquiry regarding that? Hearing none, we'll proceed to item 13C. Discussion, possible action, recommendations for the Director of Human Resources, Dr. Gutierrez.
Yes, administration is recommending the approval of Ms. Olga Mendez for the position of Human Resources Director. Administration is recommending action on this item.
What say you, Board?
I move to approve.
Motion by Trustee De La Garza Lopez. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's Trustee Rivera is what I heard first, sorry. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, 6-0, motion carries. We now go to 13D, discussion intruder detection audit report findings. This was an item to discuss with our chief and the Board of Trustees in closed session. It has to do with safety. We now move to 13E, discussion and legal counsel regarding Quinta Mazatlan and International Museum of Art and Science. In this case, we would proceed as directed by the board to our legal counsel. That'd be correct, Mrs. Smith?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. We now proceed to 13F, pending or potential litigation. 13F1, McAllen Independent School District versus Oscar Alejandro Martinez and Wendy Anaí Garza, cause number C004024-G. Again, this one, we proceed as directed by the board to our legal counsel in closed session, unless somebody objects.
You can
Hearing
motion
no
to
objection,
approve
was that
as
correct, Ms.
discussed.
Smith?
I would state it this way, motion to approve settlement is discussed and closed, and advised by legal counsel.
Okay. We're
So,
gonna-
so move.
Okay, all right, we got a motion by Trustee Peña and a
Thank you very
second by
much,
Trustee
Legal.
De La Garza. I like that better. Any discussion or clarification by any board member? Hearing none, let's vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, 6-0, motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Smith. We now go to 14, schedule of future meetings. 14A, special board meeting, level 3 grievance, February 26, 2024, 4 p.m. here in the boardroom, administration building. 14B, regular board meeting, February 26, 2024, 5 p.m., Dr. Ricardo Chapa boardroom, administration building. 14C, board workshop number 2, March 4th, 2024, 4 p.m., Dr. Ricardo Chapa boardroom, administration building. And regular board meeting on March 18th, 2024, at 5 p.m. in Dr. Ricardo Chapa boardroom, administration building. And then a special board meeting, student recognitions, March 25th, 2024, at 5:30 p.m. This is in the auditorium at McAllen High School. Yes. Yes. I'm not sure which is which. Were copies made for the board? Or do you have copies?
There's two different workshop, calendars. One with the workshop, it says 14.
You
Oh.
can approach and
You can come on up. I'm sorry.
approach the dais, Miss Natalie. May I approach? Is that okay?
I just learned the word today.
On a separate Monday from the regular meeting.
Okay.
This is the
All right, fair enough. The matter to discuss, it has been brought to the administration's attention and to the board leadership. And I think several of us have inquired. This is, again, under future meetings. Should we add a 4 o'clock and then we workshop and then go into the board meeting at 5, or do we set that up as a separate board meeting on the Monday that we're not meeting for regular meetings? So we'd be meeting not every Monday, but every Mondays, and that way it gives us a little bit more time. That's the thought, versus you kind of rushing in that 1 hour at 4 o'clock. Not to mention those of us at work that, like today, instead of having the workshop today, it would be next Monday that we're not having a meeting.
Well, are we talking about a 4 p.m.? And my apologies to staff. I know everybody's been here since really early this morning. A lot of us, we don't want to be here till this hour, but I am and continue to advocate for the fact that our community needs to be able to participate in our meetings. And 4 o'clock does not work for the community, neither does noon. Not everybody has a computer they can sit at and watch the meetings in order to interact. So I would like for our meetings to be after 5 or after, and I'm available. It doesn't mean I have to leave super early from my job, which I think the community does too. If I have to leave at 3 to get here for a 4 p.m. meeting, somebody in the community has to do the same, and they may or may not have that luxury. So for me, as long as the community is able to participate, then I'm all in.
Any other thoughts?
Well, I just have to tend to agree, trustee Salivar, in that budget workshops are important, and to feel constrained with an hour before, I don't think that that's sufficient time to cover what we need to do. So I would tend to agree, if it's a Monday, and we're meeting every Monday, that's a sacrifice that us as trustees, that's what we signed up for, so, I have no problem with it.
And in the same spirit, I feel, I completely thought today's was televised, so I would hope that even if it's just a budget workshop, that it would be televised and live streamed as well.
We'll do it.
I agree with that too.
I'm
I
in
mean,
for after 5, regardless if it's Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday or Friday.
Well, not Friday.
I'm down for Fridays. They're my favorite working days.
It's soccer game.
It's true.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that we could have a board meeting on Mondays, and then the following Monday, the budget workshop.
That's correct.
And then a board meeting, and then a budget workshop.
That's correct.
And leave it on Mondays, starting at 5 o'clock, televise them, like a regular board meeting, and go from there. And we'll go only on Mondays as needed. We don't have to do it every other Monday. If we need to have one, we'll have one. If we don't, we'll pass it on to the following Monday after that.
And please attach the presentations to the agendas.
Okay,
Yeah.
we didn't do that?
Not
No.
for the budget workshop.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Now-
we got lots of questions about the staffing guidelines, what we were
We will.
looking at. I think it's
Okay.
fair
And
and transparent.
Yeah, if the public can sit here through a workshop and listen, there's no reason why we can't put it on live stream so that the rest of the community can see it too.
I think it's, if everybody spoke, I want to, trustee Killen. I think everything that's been mentioned should be the core of what we do and how we communicate to each other between the administration and the board, but more importantly, all of us here present to our community out there. So all these suggestions, I think I appreciate you getting concise to that, Dr. Gutierrez. One other element that I think is important is that I lost train of thought. It's been a long day. It may not be important, but everything that was mentioned is important. But as far as the information being made available, the more information that can be provided and attached to an agenda, it makes for a much more informed public, but more importantly, it affords us, as one of our board member goals is that community involvement, is that our community can communicate with us their thoughts and concerns as well. So as long as we keep doing that. Oh, I just remembered, I'm sorry. Under the board policy, there's no mention of, and Trustee Delgado brought it to our attention, there is no mention of a budget workshop or a workshop. I think we should use the correct term, and the term being a special board meeting, budget discussion or budget 2 discussion. I think we're better off to do that, to follow our board policy, which is either a regular board meeting or a special board meeting. I think that was, the language is always the same.
And as
We'll
long as
take
all
note
of
of
our
that.
attachments say, draft or proposed, right, then there's no concern that people mistake it for what we actually decide.
Exactly. Any other questions, comments regarding our plans going forward regarding, so it looks like Dr. Gutierrez captured it really well. And with that, unless there's any, I need a motion to adjourn and we'll be there.
So moved.
Second.
Trustee De La Garza and Trustee Regalado is our second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The motion carries 6-0. We are adjourned at 10:26.